Both ready?
Let's do it.
You ready?
Yes.
All right, let's turn on the meeting. Good evening, everyone. I'd like to call this meeting of the Orange Township Board of Trustees for the zoning hearing held on February 5th, 2025 to order. Mrs. Bonnie, could you please call the roll?
Trustee Ringel.
Here.
Trustee Faust.
Here.
And Trustee Knapp.
Here.
Would you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. We're here this evening to hear zoning application ZON-24-08 Epcon Evans Farm. I'll go over a little bit of the format for how the hearing will be conducted this evening, and then we'll proceed with that format. So we'll first have our zoning director provide a staff report related to the development. We'll allow the applicant, if they have a presentation to make their presentation at that point. The board will probably ask questions in between the different presentations. Mr. Rob Riley with the Delaware County Engineer's Office is also here this evening, so he'll speak after the applicant. The board will probably have some questions at that point as well. We'll then open up the hearing for public comment. When we get closer to public comment, I'll give some additional direction, and then we'll close public comment, make sure any questions that were asked during public comment get answered, and then the board will have some additional discussion at that point. So without further ado, I'll turn the meeting over to our zoning director, Mr. Duffy.
Thank you, Chairman Ringel. We are here to discuss rezoning case ZON-24-08. The applicant is Epcon Communities for property located at 4948 South Old State Road. There are two parcels in question totaling 62.8 acres. The current zoning is single-family plan residential district. The applicant is requesting an amendment to the currently effective development plan for the Evans Farm single-family plan residential district, approved under multiple previous applications. The amendment would create a new sub-area within Evans Farm in order to allow for townhomes and duplexes to be mixed into one condominium community in combination with single-family ranch condominium dwellings. Again, you can see the history there, number of zoning applications having been amended over the last previous years. In terms of the surrounding area, to the north is single-family plan residential district and the neighborhood of Avonlea. To the south is single-family plan residential district, a neighborhood of Bryn Mawr. To the east is South Old State Road, also single-family plan residential district with the Evans Farm Reserve, as well as Willow Springs North subdivision. And to the west is also single-family plan residential district in Evans Farm. On the following page of the staff report, you can see the illustrative site plan provided by the applicant. Below that is the layout comparison, comparing the Evans Farm conceptual layout as well as the proposed layout by the applicant. We do have larger versions of these drawings that we can pull back up later if the trustees so wish. In terms of the zoning development plan changes, I'll go over things briefly. In terms of permitted uses, in the courtyards at Evans Farm sub-area, which would what this sub-area is proposed to be called, condominiums would be added as a permitted use. Duplexes, attached zero lot line residential uses, as well as 4-unit townhomes would also be added as permitted uses in this sub-area. Currently, attached dwellings and townhomes are only permitted in the planned commercial area of Evans Farm. Model homes and accessory structures, community center, clubhouse and recreation facilities, and community gardens would be added as permitted uses in this sub-area. Construction trailers and offices, as well as real estate trailers and offices for sales purposes, would also be added as permitted uses in this sub-area. There also has been some language added to allow for platted lots, on the north side of the property along the public road that is on the northern border of the sub-area. These lots would still be condominiumized, However, Delaware County standards require that these lots to be individually platted because they have access on a public road. Divergences are required for these lots to be smaller than the standard Evans Farm requirements. In terms of the unit count, a total of 159 residential units are proposed to be within this sub-area. The unit breakdown in terms of the unit types are as follows. That would be 129 detached single-family condominium dwellings, 1 attached duplex building for 2 units, and then 7 attached 4-unit townhome buildings for a total of 28 units. 1,046 units are permitted in the Evans Farm Single-Family Plan Residential District in total. These 159 units would count towards that requirement, meaning that no new units are being added to Evans Farm under this proposal, but it would shift the units proposed in this sub-area. In terms of open space and amenities, the applicant is proposing to have 24.07 acres of open space, which is approximately 38.33% of the site, which does meet and exceed the requirements for open space in Evans Farm. A clubhouse, community pool, and 2 tennis pickleball courts are proposed as amenities. The development text does specify that these amenities would be exclusive to the residents of the Epcon sub-area. Road access and connectivity, proposed east-west public road to be called English Drive would run through the site and line up with the existing access at Sunglow Drive on South Old State. English Drive would connect with the stub from the current stub of Rock Drive from the south from the Bryn Mawr subdivision. The phasing of this development has been updated since the original plans, so the Rock Drive connection would not occur until the final phase of this sub-area. I believe we'll have some more information on that later. And another public road would also run north-south along the western portion of the sub-area. And then I'll add that at the very northern end, that residential street would also be public. The rest of the internal roads would be privately owned and maintained. 2 emergency access points are proposed. One would come in from Gables Crossing to the north from Avonlea, as well as one off of South Old State. These access points would be for emergency vehicle use only and not for use by the general public. And if you saw older versions of the plans, initially there was a T intersection that would extend from Gables Crossing, but currently they are proposing a cul-de-sac that would dead end into the private road for that emergency access. 4-foot sidewalks would service the interior portions of the site. 5-foot sidewalk is proposed on the south side of English Drive, while a 10-foot path is proposed on the north side. A sidewalk has also been added that runs along the wet basin and intersects with the path along English Drive, which kind of cuts diagonally through the site. In terms of landscaping, a number of deciduous shade and street trees, small ornamental trees, and evergreen trees are proposed to be planted, both as street trees and part of visual buffers to provide a visual buffer from surrounding developments. Language has been added to clarify that street trees within the public right-of-way shall be the maintenance responsibility of the developer during the development period and the responsibility of the Masters Homeowners Association thereafter. Landscaping buffers are proposed along the majority of the South Old State frontage, English Drive, the proposed north-south public road, and the area south of Gables Crossing. A 4-foot mound as well as additional evergreens have been added on the southern side of the property to provide additional screening from the Bryn Mawr subdivision. Additional landscaping is also proposed to be planted around the primary entrance off of English Drive. There would be some fencing proposed as well, crossbuck fencing as well as 4-rail horse fencing to be installed around most of the exterior of the sub-area. In terms of architecture, this proposal would add a variety of building elevations as pre-approved in Evans Farm, subject to certain location conditions as determined by the Evans Farm town architect. An approval letter from the town architect was also included in the application. According to the submittal, permitted exterior building materials in the sub-area would be lap siding, shakes, board and batten, and exterior trim with cedar texture. Because the building elevations would be permitted, should this amendment be approved, the requirement that garages be located behind the front facade of all residential dwellings that applies in the rest of Evans Farm would not apply to this sub-area in particular. Language has also been added to clarify that single hung windows would be permitted in this sub-area. Language has also been added that would allow concrete, masonry, or hardscape patios to encroach up to 4 feet into the side yard structure separation between units. Minimum structure separation per text is 12 feet, so this would allow those patios to encroach slightly into that setback. In terms of signage, a number of permanent and temporary signage are proposed as part of the amendment. That'd be 2 entry columns as well as 4 piers with and without plaques are proposed at the entry on South Old State. 1 yardarm sign and 10 piers, both with and without plaques, are proposed at the sub-area entrance intersection on English Drive. Various temporary signage was also proposed, including 1 community info sign, 1 model info sign, 1 brochure box, several feather flags, and a welcome center sign. The community info sign is proposed to be located along the South Old State frontage, and feather flags are proposed to be located at the intersection of English Drive and South Old State, as well as English Drive near the sub-area entrance. In terms of review from other agencies, because this is an amendment to an existing planned district and not full rezoning, this did not go before the Delaware County Regional Planning Commission for a recommendation. However, the applicant has been working with the various county agencies, including regional planning and the county engineer's office, regarding their site plan going through the preliminary subdivision process. And the site plan has been reviewed and approved by the Orange Township Fire Department. As for the Orange Township Zoning Commission, the Zoning Commission did recommend approval of this application with a 4-1 vote at their meeting on January 7 of this year. And for zoning staff recommendation, we are generally supportive of the proposal. We do commend the applicant for being responsive to concerns of staff and neighboring residents. From the original proposal, the unit count has been lowered, additional landscaping and buffering has been added, and the phasing of the development has been adjusted to help address traffic concerns. Although the overall density of Evans Farm would not be changing, approval of this amendment would shift some of the density outward. However, one of the goals of Evans Farm writ large is to provide different housing typologies, and this proposal would add differing housing choices to the area. We do recommend approval of the amendment to the Board of Trustees. I have nothing further at this time. I will be on hand if the board has any questions.
Thank you, Mr. Duffy. Does the board have any initial questions?
Robin, what did you mean by Delaware County requires these lots to be individually platted, and divergences are required for those lots to be smaller than standard Evans Farm requirements?
Yeah, so Michelle, can you pull up the site plan, please? Just- So you can see on kind of underneath where it says site plan, that very northern road that runs east-west, that's proposed to be a public street, and so the homes that would access off of that street would be required to be individually platted. They're not quite fee simple lots, but they are individual properties, but still part of the condo association.
Just the lots that are directly adjacent to it?
Correct. I believe there's 13 or so. The applicant can, 15.
And for those of us who may not know, can you describe in layman's term how does fee simple lot, like what does that look like? How does that work? How does that function versus a condo?
Yeah, so a condominium is a type of ownership wherein the owners share ownership of the land but retain control over their individual buildings. It's just a different type of ownership compared to fee simple lots, which is most subdivisions in Orange Township where you own your house, you own that individual lot. So this would be a hybrid between the two.
So the people who purchase those properties would be responsible, and this may be an Epcon question, which we'll ask later, might be responsible for their mowing their grass?
So they would still be condominiumized, and I might turn it over to legal counsel to explain how that might work, but they would still be part of the condo association and would essentially have the maintenance taken care of for them. It would just be a bit of a legality where it's a hybrid distinction. Julie, anything you want to add?
Just to kind of put a finer point on that, essentially, by virtue of those initial lots being platted, that kind of row being platted, and then being added to the condominium, those lot lines will essentially disappear at that point once they're put into the condominium. Again, I believe that there's a method to the mat. I think there's a reason the county is requiring that, but to your initial point, at the end of the day, those folks, once those lots are added to the condo, their units and the areas surrounding their property will be treated just like
Same
any
as
other
everybody else.
unit in the condo.
And maybe I can ask Rob why.
Absolutely.
And is there a list of divergences in the zoning report?
So I don't have it in the staff report, but the applicant did provide a list, which I believe is printed out in front of you.
Right, so all of these are divergences?
So those are modifications from the currently approved Evans Farm development plan.
And the reason it wasn't called out in the application is because within the Evans Farm zoning code, it doesn't, they're not required to list them the way we're used to seeing on the rest of the developments in the
Correct,
community.
yeah, it's just a
Okay.
different construction of the
Okay.
text.
Okay, good.
All right, does the applicant have a presentation they'd like to make?
Thank you. Good evening. My name is Kelly Fankhauser with Epcon Communities. I'm assuming my address needs to be stated, or does it not?
Yeah, go
need- Okay. 500 Stonehenge Parkway, Dublin, Ohio, 43017. Members of the board and staff, thank you for your time this evening. Robin, thank you again for your thorough review of our application. And we do have a presentation. Michelle, do you mind moving through as I prompt you? Thank you. This presentation is designed to share all that's transpired over the past few months, the meetings that have been had, the feedback we've received, the changes we've made based on that feedback, and why our proposed plan supports the general welfare of the Orange Township. Next slide, please, Michelle. Leading up to this evening, we had 2 zoning commission meetings and a neighborhood meeting with Bryn Mawr community. During the commission meeting on November 12th and the Bryn Mawr neighborhood meeting on December 10th, we received consistent feedback that there are safety concerns about the Rock Drive connection, concerns that our courtyard homes were too close to the Bryn Mawr property lines, and that more buffering to the south was wanted by Bryn Mawr and encouraged by Zoning Commission. We took all that feedback from neighbors and Zoning Commission and made changes to our plan. And at the last Zoning Commission meeting on January 7th, we received the 4-to-1 recommendation to this board, as well as one last piece of feedback. Chair Trevellis shared that she would like to see greater pedestrian connectivity through the Epcon sub-area. The following slides share the actions we've taken to improve our plan. Next slide, please, Michelle. During the first Zoning Commission meeting, we consistently heard safety concerns from our Bryn Mawr neighbors about increased cut-through traffic without a signal present at South Old State. After the meeting, we reached out to Delaware County and Orange Township to better understand and discuss the Rock Drive connection. It was made clear to us after multiple conversations with the Township and Engineer's Office that the Rock Drive connection must be installed, and once installed, the public road must remain open. That led us to focus on the timing of the connection and the installation of the signal. We determined the best way for Epcon to aid in the timing of the connection and the signal installation was to rephase our public road improvements. Originally, Rock Drive was to be connected during the construction phase 2. Delaware County and Orange Township see no issue with us pushing this connection back into phase 3. In addition to our action and rephasing, Delaware County and Evans Farm Master Developer have agreed to the installation timing of the signal to occur within 18 months of the phase 2 infrastructure commencement. The combination of our rephasing of Rock Drive from phase 2 to 3 and the agreement reached by the county and Evans Farm Master Developer, we have better aligned the timing and the connection of the light installation. Next slide, please, Michelle. Gosh, sorry. I'm sorry. Yeah, I'm sorry. I got you mixed up there. Traffic concerns. They were also raised by our Bryn Mawr neighbors as it relates to the Rock Drive connection. After the November zoning meeting, we reached out to traffic engineers at Kimley Horn to evaluate traffic counts and peak hour trips of the Evans Farm conceptual plan, consisting of 93 conventional single-family homes, and the Epcon sub-area plan of 159 courtyard homes. This slide compares conventional single-family traffic of the 93 homes to senior traffic, which best represents traffic generated by the 159 Epcon courtyard homes. The traffic engineer's analysis estimates that Epcon's community of 159 courtyard homes would generate an estimated 65 fewer daily trips and 29 fewer peak hour trips than the 93 conventional single-family homes would generate. Next slide, please, Michelle. This information on this slide supports the senior housing traffic numbers that we shared on the previous slide. Epcon has been building homes and communities designed for baby boomers for almost 40 years in Central Ohio, and over the past 25 years, we've been building our homes in Orange Township. Our quality, age-targeted homes feature first-floor living, owner suites, a low-maintenance lock-and-leave lifestyle, excuse me, and homes that make aging in place safely possible. Because we build homes in communities designed for baby boomers, we inherently generate fewer school-age children than conventional single-family homes. And students directly correlate to traffic. We have built 560 homes in the township over 25 years, and there are only 17 school-age children living in those homes. And based on student averages in the township, we estimate that the courtyards at Evans Farm will generate 5 students. Fewer students in our community equals fewer trips made to and from homes. We believe that the combination of less traffic, rephasing of the Rock Drive connection, and the commitment of the signal installation on South Old State provides a solution to ease safety concerns for our neighbors. Michelle, next slide, please. To further support our estimated traffic, here's a comparison of the quantity of bedrooms and number of occupants per home. 93 conventional single-family homes with an average bedroom count of 4 per home yields 372 bedrooms. 6 more bedrooms than a community of 159 courtyard homes are likely to have. You have, if you take a look at the far right column, you will see the average number of occupants per home. The 93 conventional single-family homes would likely have more occupants than the 159 courtyard homes. Next slide, please, Michelle. During the first zoning commission meeting, both staff and the commission commented specifically on the distance between our proposed courtyard homes, south of English Drive, and to the Bryn Mawr property lines to the south. Our Bryn Mawr neighbors also shared that they wanted more spacing for the units and for them to shift as far east as possible. We heard the feedback that was given and felt that we could improve our plan if we modified our layout while keeping all those suggestions in mind. This slide shows our original plan with 8 units south of English Drive and our updated and current layout showing 6 homes south of English Drive. In addition to eliminating 2 units, we also shifted the units east, resulting in more distance between our homes and our neighbors' property lines. Next slide, please, Michelle. This slide depicts the distance gained by eliminating the 2 units and shifting the 6 units to the east. You will also find this information on Exhibit H7 in your binders. Our neighbors, Mr. and Mrs. Naveau, were impacted the most distance-wise in our first plan. The home is directly south of our most western courtyard home, south of English Drive. There was approximately 42 feet from the back of our homes to their property line at the time. With these changes, we added an additional 63 feet, resulting in a total distance of approximately 105 feet between the courtyard homes and Mr. and Mrs. Naveau's property line. The increased distance between the other 5 units on the property line is noticeable. Respectively, they measure a total of 128 feet, then 152 feet, 176 feet, 199 feet, and 210 feet. In addition to the great distance we have achieved between our courtyard homes and the property lines, it is crucial to understand the privacy of the courtyard home as it compares to a single-family home for our home buyers and for our neighbors. These 6 homes provide vertical and horizontal privacy for our neighbors and home buyers. Vertical privacy because all of our homes are 1 story in the back. No one is looking down from a 2nd story to a neighboring home or yard. And horizontal privacy because the outdoor space is located on the side of the home, not the rear, where a single-family home would have a yard backing up directly to the Bryn Mawr property lines. Michelle, next slide, please. On this slide, you will see Exhibit HA depicting the additional distance and open space we've created with our courtyard homes versus the assumed conventional single-family homes on the Evans Farm conceptual layout. We created this comparison by taking comparable Evans Farm lot sizes and building footprints and placed them on the Evans Farm conceptual layout. You can see the homes on the conceptual layout are approximately 54 feet from the property line, and the Epcon courtyard homes are at minimum 105 feet off the property line. Our improved plan offers more distance for our neighbors when compared to both Epcon's original plan and Evans Farm conceptual plan. Next slide, please, Michelle. And during the commission meeting on November 12th, staff comments suggested adding buffering along the property lines where our previous 8 homes were located. We took that suggestion and modified our plan, adding additional landscaping along the 3 eastern property lines to the south. We then shared that plan with our Bryn Mawr neighbors at the neighborhood meeting on December 10th. And after that meeting, we felt we could do more for our neighbors along the southern property line. The first improvement we made was shifting the pond. And by doing this, we were able to create more space between the existing tree line and the pond to add another buffer element of evergreen trees. And the second improvement we made was because of a conversation I had with Mrs. Albert at the end of our neighborhood meeting. At the time, she shared that she appreciated the open space behind her home. But our plan has moved English Drive closer to her property line, and we removed homes that buffered her from that road. She communicated that adding landscaping along her property line would make a difference. We looked at our plan to see how we could achieve the greatest buffer possible for her property and all the property lines to the south of English Drive, west of our pond, and all the way to Rock Drive. We recognized that we had an opportunity to make a great improvement here, and we decided that in addition to landscaping, we would add mounding. On our new plan, you will see 4 to 6 foot mounding as well as evergreens. These additions significantly buffer our neighbors from English Drive and enhance the open space. It is important to note that not all open space is created equal. This designated common area, open space, will be beautifully landscaped with a combination of mounding, evergreens, and a pond, and will be consistently maintained by the community association. Our plan provides certainty of beautiful landscaping and maintenance for our neighbors and future homebuyers. The same certainty cannot be said for the Evans Farm conceptual layout with conventional single-family homes, where yards back up to our neighbors' property lines and landscape plans and owner-driven maintenance are unknown. Next slide, please, Michelle. And during the last zoning commission meeting on January 7th, zoning commission chair Trabellis recognized the effort and changes we had made and had one last suggestion: to create greater pedestrian connectivity for the public. And on this slide, you will see the 8-foot wide public walking trail that we've added through the open space, providing greater connectivity. Next slide, please. There's been a theme along the way. We have listened and we have heard to zoning commission and their feedback. We have listened and we have heard neighborhood feedback. We have been responsive in revising our plan based on that feedback. The work over the past 3 months has led to a better Epcon plan, and it's an Epcon plan that is better than the Evans Farm conceptual plan. This plan generates less traffic. We have added open space, buffering, and home-to-home distance for our Bryn Mawr neighbors. Our plan consists of courtyard homes which provide greater privacy. We have worked with Orange Township, Delaware County engineer, and Evans Farm master developer to better align the Rock Drive connection with the signal installation on South Old State, and we have provided greater pedestrian connectivity by adding a public walking trail through our open space. Michelle, next slide, please. In addition to our plan being better for the sub-area of Evans Farm, our proposed plan is great for the township. Our plan supports the health, safety, and general welfare of the township by adding much-needed empty nester senior housing, strong home values, social community that fosters human connection and greater well-being, safe age-in-place homes, less traffic, less intense use, and a positive fiscal school impact. Next slide, please. Orange Township's population is growing. The demand of senior and empty nester housing is growing. The township's population of 55-plus constituents is estimated to grow by 2%, reaching nearly 10,000 by 2029, and there are only 921 for-sale, age-targeted homes in the township. Next slide, please. The 55-plus population growth is impactful, and Orange Township's comprehensive plan identifies and supports the need for more and diverse senior and empty nester housing. This is a significant finding in the comprehensive plan because the 55-plus constituents are quickly approaching 25% of the population, and the township has fallen behind in the housing growth for this ever-growing demographic. The comprehensive plan identifies solutions for the weaknesses and lack of senior living and community centers. The Courtyards at Evans Farm proposed plan meets both proposed solutions with diverse, age-targeted, owner-occupied homes and improved pedestrian connectivity. Next slide, please, Michelle. Our proposed plan supports the general welfare of the township because our homes and community are of less intense use. The Courtyards of Evans Farm would generate less traffic, less impact and burden on the township's operating fund, with private amenities and private streets maintained by the community. And our age-targeted empty nester homes would generate few school-age children and a surplus to the school district. Next slide, please. In preparation for our meeting with the township, we contacted Olentangy Local School District to confirm how many school-age children live in our homes. The district shared that we have 17 school-age children and 560 Epcon homes in Orange Township. None of those communities are age-restricted. Based on that information, we expect that our proposed community of 159 homes would generate 5 students in the district. Next slide, please, Michelle. The Courtyards at Evans Farm, as proposed with 159 units, will create a substantial surplus to the school district annually. Based on tax estimator information on the Delaware County's auditor website, the Courtyards at Evans Farm 159 homes would generate $2 million annually in local tax revenue and $1.4 million to the school district. And of that $1.4 million to the district, $1.35 million would be an annual surplus to the schools, as we estimated that 5 school-age children will live in the community of 159 courtyard homes. Next slide, please, Michelle. I'd like to wrap up by saying that we've been thoughtful in the design of this community. We have efficiently engineered the site and used good land planning practices to minimize environmental impact and maximize open space. We have planned a beautifully landscaped community to be enjoyed by current and future residents of Evans Farm and our neighbors. We have met with staff, zoning commission, both of whom recommend our application to this board, and we strongly believe that our plan is worthy of this board's approval tonight. Joining me is Epcon's Columbus Regional President, Craig Cherry, as well as our consultants, Tom Hart as legal counsel, our engineer, Tyler Jackson, and Gary Smith with G2 Planning and Landscape Design. Also in attendance is the master developer of Evans Farm, Michael Zenios, and Delaware County Engineer Rob Riley. I believe the master developer of Evans Farm would like to share a presentation with you now.
Good evening, everyone. Michael Zenios on behalf of Evans Farm. Address, your address?
Sure.
1759 Woodland Hall Drive, Delaware, Ohio 43015. Thank you for your time this evening. Thank you for listening and considering our application. On behalf of the developer, we are very excited to be here before you with this consideration. We are growing Evans Farm, and part of our continuous strategic plan is to continue to diversify our bases, diversifying product, diversifying typology, diversifying price point, to continue to work on the principles of the new urbanism, work, live, play. In doing so, I'm happy to report that we're about 40% of 1,046 here in the spring, according to Rick. We'll be at about 40% through in lots. And we're excited, and we couldn't look for a better next step in continue to grow our diversification in a partner like Epcon. They're proven, they're local, they know what they're doing, they can deliver, and it's a piece that we're missing to our continuous growth of our community. They work closely with our team. They work closely with our village town architect to come up with plans that work for both, that are sensitive to our principles and the principles that we promised to you guys. We've got the seal of approval of the family that trusted us with their land. And above and beyond all, what we're trying to do has a neutral density impact to our plan. We're not here to ask you for anything more. We're here to basically say it's well within the density that we're asking for. We love the reduction of traffic that they're generating. We love the surplus that they're creating for our schools. And we love the product that they do. We feel that it's an essential piece to the continued success of our master plan community at Evans Farm. As we continue to build our mixed-use product, the name of the game is to continue to promote different prices, different products, different tiers, if you will, of housing. They do that well. So in doing so, I am excited to have them in our team. I'm excited for you guys considering them, and I'm happy to answer any questions when that time comes. Thank you.
Thank you. Do we have any initial questions to the applicant, or we would like to hear Mr. Riley's presentation first?
After Rob, yeah.
I think we'll move into Rob.
Okay, good afternoon. My name is Rob Riley. I'm the Chief Deputy Engineer with the Delaware County Engineer's Office, representing Chris Bosman, the County Engineer. I wanted to, first off, appreciate the invitation to be here tonight to talk with you about this development. I wanted to spend a little bit of time talking about our role as the County Engineer's Office in development. And I'll start by talking about kind of the difference between zoning and platting. First off, you know what you're doing. This is a zoning hearing. Zoning is fundamentally a land use decision. It involves what I would say is the character of development, the arrangement of the buildings, the type of the buildings, the appearance of the buildings and grounds. That is different, but it's closely related to what we do at the engineer's office through the platting process. Michelle. So in Ohio, we have two separate statutory functions relating to development. There is zoning and there's platting. What is platting? Platting is, or I should say a plat is simply a map. It's a map showing the property lines. It's something that's prepared for most new developments to legally create those lots, to legally define easements, rights of way, in a way that can be easily perpetuated in the public records. So platting, again, under Ohio statute, has some very specific regulations and rules associated with platting. And essentially our function as the engineer's office is in a platting review role. And so what we do as the engineer's office, we work with the Regional Planning Commission. We also work with your office. But our involvement in development is primarily in the infrastructure, the roads, the streets, the drainage, the utilities, making sure that the new neighborhood is designed in a way that it will not create a burden on existing infrastructure and that the new lots being platted are adequately served. So again, just a graphic kind of showing zoning versus platting. This is intentionally shown with an overlap because there is overlap between zoning and platting. There are a lot of things that kind of dwell in that middle area, such as development density, the location of paths and walks, arrangement of the building lots, and then open spaces. Both of those are all functions that kind of lie in that area between platting and zoning. But then there are other things that are squarely within one or the other. And so I'll talk a little bit about more about platting here in a second. So as county engineer, our office, we're more than happy to be here, more than happy to consult with you and provide advice to your board, but we have a legal responsibility to be involved in the platting process. It's not a may or a should, it's a shall in the revised codes. We have a statutory obligation to assist the Planning Commission in reviewing street construction, street layout, traffic studies, drainage and erosion control, and then, of course, the actual subdivision plat itself. A couple other sections of code speak to street construction. Our job is to make sure that new public streets are properly built because at the end of the day, it will be the public that maintains those. So this is kind of a chart showing what I call the typical residential development process. You can see there's a number of checkpoints or milestones within the process. Zoning involves about half of those. The other half, I would say, is in the area of platting, engineering, and maintenance of the infrastructure. So Ohio law is very specific about platting and what we as officials, as the public, can require of developers. There are certain things we can require and ask for. There are certain things that we can't. Just in summary, what we ask for in terms of the new infrastructure that has to be built with new developments has to have a nexus to those new building lots. We can't, even though we might want to, we can't ask for a development in Orange Township to pay for roads in, say, Scioto Township or Thompson Township. There's no rational nexus between those two things. What we ask for, what we require, has to have proportionality. We have to make sure that what's being required as a condition of platting closely relates and is proportional to the impact of the development, and that the particular improvements such as road widening, new roads, both serves the development in the type and the extent of that improvement. We cannot, as a regional planning commission, county engineer's office, ask for things that are in excess of what the development creates a need for. For instance, we cannot ask for a single development to create a new 4-lane highway, a new interchange. That's simply beyond the scope of what we are allowed to do by law. So I'll get into a little bit of traffic engineering, so to speak. We have not every road is created the same. We have different classifications for our roads. We generally group our roads into 3 categories: arterials, collectors, and locals. Local streets kind of speaks for itself. It's the streets that have the homes on them. Generally, these are the interior streets within a neighborhood. They include the cul-de-sacs, they include the more narrow streets, and then at the other end of the spectrum are the arterial roads. These are roads like US 23, like South Old State Road, like Lewis Center Road. These are big roads that carry a lot of traffic. They're designed to carry a lot of traffic. And then there's the roads in between, what we call collectors. These kind of serve a dual function of both serving neighborhoods and local areas, but they also route traffic through neighborhoods and get traffic out to the arterial roads. So I know there's been a lot of consideration, a lot of discussion about the proposed English Drive. That's what's shown on this map, kind of highlighted in red and blue or purple at the west end. So we've had, as representatives from Epcon have stated, we have had a considerable amount of dialogue and discussion about English Drive. We recognize this is a source of some questions, some concern by area residents. I'll go back to about 10 years ago when we had initial discussions with the Evans Farm development team. When the site was originally laid out in the mid-2010s, this street was identified as a pretty important street within the community. Reason for that, you have just the way that Evans Farm is laid out. You have a couple different connections that go to the south, that go to Lewis Center Road, but there was no really good major connection to the east, to Old State Road. And so that was really, this street, or the classification of this street as a collector was born out of that early dialogue with the developer. So I'll talk about the phasing. Again, Epcon and Mr. Zenios spoke about the phasing. What has been stated is accurate. We do feel that there is no need for the connection to Rock Drive until later in the development. So we have agreed to defer that obligation until the third phase or the third section, which would be kind of the area to the north as the new public road to the west and then to the north gets built. So, and I'll explain that in a little bit more detail here in a second. So I want to start, again, spend just a little bit more time on talking about what is a collector street. I've got a couple examples. This is Liberty Grand Boulevard in Liberty Township. Sawmill Parkway is on the east side. Stites Road is on the west. You can see kind of what that collector street looks like. It is 2-lane divided for a portion of the length. There's some 2-lane undivided section, just as is being proposed by Epcon for English Drive. Next slide. This is Highland Lakes Avenue. If you've lived in this area, this road's been around for a long time. If you've paid attention, there are no driveways on this road. All of the streets come off of Highland Lakes Avenue, except for one little drive at the very end that snuck in. But this was always intended to be a collector street, not someone's front yard, not someone's front doorstep, so to speak. And it carries a good bit of traffic, just as does Liberty Grand Boulevard. And that's why it's there. These are both 35-mile-per-hour streets. They're both intended and designed to carry that volume safely and efficiently to get traffic from the neighborhood out to the arterial roads. So here's a map showing kind of some of the major the major collector roads within Evans Farm. On the left side, you can see Pyatt Road is highlighted, and then kind of in the middle to the north-south, you have Evans Farm Drive going from the marketplace up to the north, and that will ultimately intersect at Hollenbach Road. And then English Drive, you can see that cuts through the middle, east and west. That is the road we're talking about today. Again, designated as a collector street, intended to really help facilitate some of the traffic flow through Evans Farm, in and out of the neighborhood, going to the major arterials. And I did want to mention, you know, we've obviously we work closely with the school districts. We're aware of their school area boundaries. This area, currently the elementary school boundary is served by Arrowhead Elementary. That's an important consideration in this. How do we get school traffic from this area up to Arrowhead? You can see that Evans Farm Drive extension will ultimately get up to Hollenbach Road, very close to the elementary school. So this is kind of a zoomed in look at English Drive on the north, and just to give you kind of a feel for kind of when things happened in this area. I actually grew up in Westerville. I've been in this area for over 40 years. I remember the days when Old State was a little country road. Back when I started driving in the early 90s, I remember going out on Old State when I was learning how to drive, and there wasn't much traffic there. There's a lot of traffic today. The very first, should say that the first subdivision in this area that was platted was Bryn Mawr, Section 1, that was platted in 1993. Two additional sections came in later in 2000 and 2001. Right across the street, Willow Springs North, Section 1, that came in right after Bryn Mawr in 1994, and then the second section was in 2003. So obviously through the 90s, through the early 2000s, we started to see a lot of development in this area. And it's been that way for some time, largely because of limitations on sanitary sewer capacity. And so that some of that has changed recently with some investments the county has made into the sanitary sewer system, providing more capacity to serve the area. I would note that as stated before, the intersection at English Drive and South Old State Road will be a signalized intersection. That is by design, that is intentional, that's because it's needed. What we're talking about is English Drive. This will be a street that carries over 3,000 vehicles per day. This will be a busy street, but that's what we want. We want traffic funneled on a street that's intended to carry that amount of traffic, not dispersed through local streets that's really not intended for that. So, that's correct. 3,000 cars, correct.
If everyone could please hold their comments, that way we make sure that everyone can hear the applicant speaking, and then we'll be able to address any additional comments when we have public comment.
These are daily trips, so 3,000, if I said per hour, I apologize, 3,000 trips per day, and that's based on the study that was done about 10 years ago for Evans Farm. By comparison, Old State Road carries 15,000 cars per day, so you're looking at maybe 20% of what's on Old State. So let's talk about neighborhood connectivity. This is kind of a goal that we...
Sorry.
Yeah, thank you. So why do we care about neighborhood connectivity in the first place? There's several legitimate reasons we care about it. And basically to summarize, we want neighborhoods to connect for quality of life. That's what we're talking about. We try to put ourselves in the shoes of the residents that we serve. What would we want, or when I look at things, I look at what would I want if I lived in these neighborhoods. First off, I would not want to have to go out on the busy thoroughfares just to go to the next neighborhood over. If I'm visiting a friend in the next neighborhood, I would rather either myself, my wife, and kids have an alternative to get through on the local streets. Talk about deliveries. We all get stuff from Amazon, FedEx, UPS. Imagine if every delivery had to go out on major thoroughfares to get from neighborhood to neighborhood. So the other benefit, we can reduce traffic on the major thoroughfares by keeping local trips on local streets. That's an important consideration. That helps us all. If you can take trips off of the major thoroughfares, off of Old State, off of Lewis Center, that delays the amount of time we have, or pushes out the need to upgrade those roads. So I understand there is concern about cut-through traffic. Totally get it. Did what I'd say is some quick analysis on, is it really faster to cut through Bryn Mawr? So basically from point A to point D on the map, no, it's not quicker. Once the road is connected, you'll have a 35 mile per hour street leading into a 55 mile per hour road. Simple math, it's gonna be quicker for a resident that's coming out of Evans Farm to get down to South Old State to just stay on English Drive. I've heard some concerns about sidewalks, and I understand that. First question I would ask is, why don't we have sidewalks in Bryn Mawr? And the answer to that, quite frankly, in the early to mid-90s, a lot of people were moving to Delaware County to get out of the city, to get away from urbanized development. They wanted to have a more rural lifestyle. I will say sidewalks were probably the last thing on a lot of people's mind in that time. We just weren't thinking about it. That changed in the early 2000s. We started requiring sidewalks largely because those new residents said, hey, I want to walk down the street. I'd like to have a sidewalk. So now we have sidewalks. How do I get sidewalks if I don't have them? There is a process under law. Residents can petition the township. Township can then build sidewalks. We would work with your board if that's something you ever want to pursue to do that. Who pays for it? Difficult question. The answer is sidewalks that are in neighborhoods get paid for by the people that buy the homes in the neighborhoods. They're built into the price of the lots. That's just a fact. That's every new development that has sidewalks. It's the buyers of those lots that pay for the sidewalks. So you would have the option as a township to actually assess that cost on the abutting properties if that's a direction you ever want to go. You heard earlier about the timing of road upgrades. I think this is very important and very relevant to the discussion we've had about English Drive. Again, there's been some dialogue, quite a bit of dialogue actually over the last several months, and we've reached an understanding with Epcon, with Evans Farm. There's really no need to have a Rock Drive connection until later in the development. So what was said earlier about the phasing of the development and the phasing of English Drive is accurate. What we are looking for is the red section of road would be built with section 1. With section 2, the traffic signal would be installed. And then finally, section 3, kind of the purple side at the far west side, that would include the connection to Rock Drive. So again, as public officials, I think we try to do our best to put ourselves in the shoes of those that we serve. I totally understand there's concerns about safety in our neighborhoods. There's probably some concern about speed of traffic. I get that as well. The reason we lay out streets the way we do is to focus the use of those streets. We want traffic to use English Drive. We don't want traffic using the streets in Bryn Mawr. We don't want the traffic using streets in Evans Farm, for that matter, the local streets. We want the major trips that are coming in and out of the neighborhood to stay on the collector streets for as long as they can. So that's why we lay streets out the way we do. Again, with respect to the time frame, we have deferred that connection to Rock Drive until Section 3. It's just not needed any sooner than that. So I think we've reached that understanding with the developer. And that's pretty much all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions you have. I'll leave it at that.
Thank you very much.
I have some questions. So you said 3,000 cars per day on English Drive. How many cars do you think will go beyond Rock Drive once it's extended per day?
The traffic would start becoming less as you go further west on English Drive. So English Drive would serve the proposed Epcon community. It would also, some of those trips will end up, will be the actual folks in Bryn Mawr that want to go north on Old State Road would very likely use the Rock Drive connection.
So do you have any numbers for that?
In the traffic study there are, but I don't have those for you.
Okay. So you said that this road is necessary. It's a neighborhood connections are needed between Evans and adjacent subdivisions. So why exactly are they needed? I know you outlined some of the reasons, but like specifically, what is the intent? Is it for, can you explain the exact intent?
It's the same intent that we have. I mean, this is not, this issue of connection isn't unique to this particular situation. Really all across the county, we strive to make sure neighborhoods are connected, frankly, because we want local trips from neighborhood to neighborhood to stay on local roads. We don't want local trips going out to these major arterials, adding more traffic, adding more delay, compromising safety. It is, turning out on some of these roads is difficult. That is in particular, that is very true in particular in this case. Turning out off Prairie Drive, off Bryn Mawr Drive, to go left or to go north on Old State, pretty difficult. That will become more so. This will not be the last development in the area. There's a lot of ground that will be developed in the future. And so that 15,000 figure on Old State will continue to go up.
Right. And let's see here. And you said the amenities will be used by all residents. What did you mean by that?
Yeah, so that's just a general statement about, and I would say that's applicable to Evans Farms in that there are a lot of commercial amenities, the Evans Farm Marketplace, that attracts people from all across Delaware County. I've been to the Marketplace. I live in Genoa Township. But certainly the folks that live in and around Evans Farm, I would expect will want to visit Evans Farm. We've got the Jennings Sports Park coming online this spring. There's no reason that those trips should have to go out on Old State, down and around on Lewis Center Road when you're really going from neighborhood to neighborhood.
But can't they cut down south and get to Lewis Center Road?
Well, that's my point exactly, is those trips from within, say, Bryn Mawr, for instance. It's a much better situation if those folks that are in Bryn Mawr, say, want to get to either the Marketplace or to Jennings Sports Park, could actually use English Drive directly rather than getting out onto the main arterials.
Are you able to get a copy of that traffic study tonight before you leave to see how many anticipated trips there would be on Rock Drive?
On Rock Drive?
Yeah.
No, but I can certainly get that to you later this week.
Okay, I would be interested in knowing that information because those people, their yards actually, front yards will back up to the road versus a road that's designed not to have any houses directly on it. So I don't think anyone anticipated when they built their homes there that this mega development known as Evans Farm would be built there, something that they never anticipated years ago.
Well, I understand that. I don't think any of us knew what was coming for Delaware County 25 years ago. That's a pretty universal statement. I will say that for the last 10 years, the initial Evans Farm development plan did have the Rock Drive connection contemplated.
So it's always been there?
Yes.
For how many years?
10 years.
10? Okay, all right. Okay, thanks.
My turn. Okay, so English Drive, we're saying it's going to be a collector road. Couple questions about that. So the area to the west, and this may be a Zenio's question and a Rob question, is all, I'm assuming would continue to be that collector road. So what we have drafted on the conceptual plan now does show driveways off of the area to the, just to the west of this Epcon portion of the puzzle, I would say. So just to clarify that that portion of the community would have to be designed in a way that there are no driveways off of that
And
as well.
if I may, Trustee Faust, the lots that are to the west, those actually would be similar in nature to the lots that are, say, on Pyatt Road. They would have the front door facing English Drive, but the garages.
Off of an
would
alley
be
in the-
served off of an alley behind the street, or behind the home.
Okay.
But their front yards would still be facing a very busy road, correct?
Correct.
But for some reason, we can't do a similar layout in this
Yeah.
portion of it with alleys as well.
And I think that was the original design intent. That was the original development plan, was for homes that would face
English.
English Drive, served by rear alleys.
Yeah, that's not a you question, that's a
Yes.
Evan's question. Okay, just putting that out there. Yeah, great. Could you I know we talked about phasing, and this, again, may not be a Rob question, as far as phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. Do we have years associated with that? Is phase 1 27, phase 2 is 29, phase 3 is 31? This, again, this may be a Epcon question later on. Okay. Can you remind us, Rob, of the timing of this? My understanding is there will be a signal at Hollenbach and South Old State?
Correct.
No, that's not in our township, it affects everybody. And perhaps road widening associated with that?
Correct.
Was it road widening just at the intersection, or does it go all the way down to Lewis Center?
No, the widening for the intersection at Hollenbach and Old State would basically include a 3-lane section from Hollenbach down to Avonlea.
Okay.
So that entire section will be a 3-lane.
And when do we think that work? When will we see construction?
We have that penciled in for 2026 construction start.
And how long do you think that'll take?
Probably a whole construction season, may spill over into 27,
So-
depending on when we get started on that.
26 to 27, okay. Do all collector roads require no driveways?
In general, yes. That is built into our standards for new public streets. Generally, we have a break at 1,500 trips per day. Above 1,500 generally puts the street into the category of a collector street. We have the ability at that point as the engineer to designate that as a what we call no load or unloaded street without driveways.
Okay, so it's not, in the drawing with the arterial and the collector and the local roads, there was like, the bus route was shown on the collector road, but I live on the corner of Pleasant Colony and Walker Wood, which Walker Wood I feel is a collector.
It
However,
is.
Pleasant Colony is a bus route with lots of driveways on it, so that's a local road.
Walker Wood is actually a collector street.
But what about Pleasant Colony?
That would be a local.
That's a local road, okay, all right, thank you. Does this portion, I know that all of Evans impacts South Old State and Lewis Center Road, but does this development of the Epcon community trigger turn lanes, at the intersection of English and South Old State? I know eventually it triggers a light, but will there be turn lanes, or?
It does. So the turn lanes would be built with or very, very closely behind the new English drives.
So when the road is being built prior to the signal being installed?
Correct.
South Old State will be widened at that part of the
That's
intersection?
correct, with left turn lanes.
Okay. Who determined the layout within, I call it a puzzle piece, within the puzzle piece here of where English Drive? Like, who said it needed to come that far south versus, rather than curving south, curving north? Was that the developer decision?
Yeah, I mean, that's ultimately a developer decision. We have certainly input that's been raised in the dialogue between ourselves and Epcon and Evans Farm. It's what I would say for pretty obvious reasons, so that there's more developable ground to the north of the street. If you were to push the street further north, I think, I don't want to speak for Epcon, they would probably be in position of asking for lots to the south of English Drive at that point, which kind of goes, you know, is contrary to some of the feedback that they've already received.
Correct, okay. Those were all my questions for Rob. That's all I have for you.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Riley. Do we have questions for the applicant before we open it up for public comment?
Oh, yes. Go ahead.
So I am, and maybe this is a Robin question first, but, so these, I'm a little bit confused, these lot sizes, it says the existing Evans Farm text standards say 135-foot depth, 40% coverage, and 35-foot rear yard. So that is what's required for single family?
Correct.
But then it says that it's not applicable because it's a condominium unit.
Right.
So isn't that kind of like a self-fulfilling prophecy where I don't know how to explain it, but they don't have to ask for a divergence just because they're building condos?
Right, so again, we're going back to that issue of some of those northern lots have to be platted, and so that's to capture both the traditional condominium style development plus those lots on the north side, which would have to be platted at a smaller standard than the Evans Farm standards.
Yeah, but so if they were to build single-family homes here, if they were to build these single-family homes, would they have to meet these standards of 135-foot depth and 35-foot rear yard? If they were just standard single-family homes without being condos?
Yes, unless a divergence.
So they
was
would need
approved.
divergences?
So this is we've had a couple condominium style developments in the township, and because our zoning code doesn't have a set of standards for that, I mean, in theory, to your point, everything would be a divergence if it's a condominium style, because we don't have standards for that. But with this plan, it's just, it's more considered a modification to their development plan to have that. But I see your point. There would be a ton of divergences, but that is just, unfortunately, we don't have a section in our code that addresses condominium style housing.
Yeah, but it was originally single-family with these lot standards, and then you can convert it to condos, and then there are no standards. Is that correct? Okay,
Lisa, Trustee Knapp,
Okay.
if I may.
yeah.
So it goes back to again, it's a very legal, it goes back to the form of condominium ownership. At the end of the day, even though we see these individual squares on this map, and when you see a plat, you'll see individual squares on that plat. The squares on the plat are truly a legal description of the underlying property that you own. When property is added to a condominium, there are no individual little squares. It truly is a matter of the parcel lines disappear. And
Right.
so there's, theoretically, the only property lines and the only setback lines would be the outer perimeter as opposed to the inner kind of squares and that sort of thing. So, and I see that Tom Hart, on behalf of Epcon, is at the microphone, so I'll turn things over to him if he's got additional feedback.
Just, Mr. Chairman, if I may, Tom Hart, my address is 5029 Cemetery Road, zoning attorney for Epcon. Trustee Knapp, just to go back in time, we are diverging or modifying from the Evans text, but the majority of our divergences or modifications are very similar to what we've done with our multiple other Epcon communities in terms of requesting modifications over the years, the last one being Clear Creek. Because we're a condo, to build Epcon's product, to have courtyard homes, to have, the configuration in a condo. As Michelle said, the code really doesn't address our form of development. So when the township approved the 6 other communities that were shown, we were likely to have those types of modifications in every single one of them. And, in Clear Creek, I think we had 8 to allow that condo form.
That was a condo.
that
That
was-
was fee simple. It's the only fee simple property that we built in the township. All other communities have been condo communities.
But the shape, the size, the configuration of the lots, the location of the patio, the courtyards, it's all been the same, no matter what the ownership form was or whether condo or fee simple. Because we're Epcon, we are what we are. I do think our lot area where we're condo and our platted lot area where the 15 are against the public road are larger than the minimum lots for Evans. We're a little larger, we're 20% larger than the minimum lots that would be allowed in Evans. So I think they're 135 and.
Yeah, how big are the lots? I know it's not really shown.
The minimum Evans are 135 depth, 40% coverage. Ours are 120 times by 54. So we're 20% larger than what's minimally allowed in the existing zoning text.
So you said 120 depth
Yes,
and 54
width,
rear yard?
width.
Width.
And again, for a condo, that's a lot area, it's not really a lot, but when we're against the public road, we have the 15 platted lots because of Mr. Riley's county subdivision regulation.
What is the minimum width in Evans Farm for the single family?
40,
40, okay.
So these are a little bit shorter, but a little bit wider.
correct.
Okay.
But you're saying the area is 20% larger?
Larger.
Okay.
And again, you know, as we have in the past, Epcon has in the past, we're accommodating that courtyard outdoor space between the units, that's why it's wider.
That's why it's wider. Okay.
That relates to several other variances, or
Right.
not variances, the modifications we're asking for. Again, it relates to the design of a ranch courtyard home, and then our other units.
Okay, I have a couple other questions for Epcon. So there are 6 other Epcon communities here in Orange Township. I think most of them abut more commercial or multifamily spaces versus this is single-family homes. When I was looking at the ones within Orange, it looked like there was one that abuts single-family homes, which is in the Little Bear community. Your product as a whole across central Ohio, do most of them abut single-family homes? Do most of them abut multifamily, commercial?
Yes, I'm Craig Cherry, Regional President with Epcon, 500 Stonehenge Parkway. Yes, most of our communities are generally in neighborhoods. We abut single-family homes primarily. Just so happens in Orange Township that, you know, we fit in another location, but it's not uncommon at all.
Okay, the clubhouse and all the amenities, we talked about those being for residents only. But when I look at the Evans Farm website, it talks about one of the 4 tenants of the community being connected. So within the whole community. So I have a little bit of consternation with, we want everybody to be connected, but don't come into this Epcon area, you single-family people, and use our stuff. Which I understand from a business perspective why you don't, but it just doesn't jive. I'm just kind of this is not a question, just kind of stating that.
I could address that.
Yeah.
So it's a combination what we're offering. Because our residents are going to be paying specific dues to maintain the clubhouse, the pool, the pickleball court. Obviously, that's going to remain for the exclusive use of the courtyards at Evans Farms residents. But we did add the major walking trail. There's going to be sidewalks throughout, so the general amenities will be open to the public. So, that will create that, open connectivity. But yes, there will be separate amenities that are specific to our community, right? And the reason that we're able to offer, our product at the price we get is because we sell a lifestyle, right? We're selling to, active adults who are looking to, forego all the burdens of home ownership, or the majority of them, and be able to have a smaller community of like-minded individuals, right? That's where they do, that's what the clubhouse is for, in order for them to, have activities during the day, because many of them are retired, et cetera. So, but with, what we're prepared for here is that it is open to the public with the walking trail that goes all the way through. I think we kind of, met that balance between being able to offer our product and our lifestyle, and mixing it in and adapting it to Evans Farm and connectivity with not only Evans Farm, but Bryn Mawr, et cetera.
So you're saying that walking trail will be accessible to the public, the one, and then the pond area? Or what part of the pond?
So if you look at the one, that one going up there, that's going to be open to the public. That's how wide? 8 feet. That's an 8-foot wide. which will connect, residents from Bryn Mawr can walk out Rock and get on the sidewalk, get on that connection. They can also go to the south where there'll be a trail provided by Evans Farm that goes around a pond. It'll get down, walking, sidewalks or pass all the way down to the marketplace.
Will there be fish in that pond so residents can fish?
We generally don't allow fishing in our
Okay.
ponds, but yes,
There's a lot of ponds in my neighborhood, and my kid fishes in them all,
all
so.
ponds will get fish eventually.
Okay.
They're self-fulfilling, so.
What about the walking trail where it connects to something else that goes up? Is that another trail? Like, right
Yeah,
there.
that's going up and out, and it'll connect to the sidewalk that's in the northern part of Evans, and, well, how that is developed will be how the connectivity follows, so it'll be all connected.
Is
And
that
that's like-
accessible to the public also? Yes. That one, so people could walk all the way in the trail and get to the.
I mean, from a
north.
sidewalk perspective, you can't regulate who walks on your sidewalks,
Exactly, right.
so. Or
No,
who
but
walks
that-
on your roads,
but-
whether they're
Yeah.
private roads or not.
It's more of maintenance.
Yeah.
Yeah, but that's not really like, I guess that is a sidewalk, but it's kind of through the grass.
And this is an 8-foot wide walking trail. It's not a 4-foot wide sidewalk.
Right.
It's designed.
The
It's
whole-
like a bike trail,
Exactly.
bike path kind
So
of.
the whole thing is a trail.
Right, so that provides, major connectivity north-south throughout the community. Not only do we have sidewalks along the private roads and the public roads that we're developing, so
Yeah.
there's quite a bit of connectivity from, a variety of sources.
But I have seen people or developments put signs up that say, for resident use only, and then they could stop people from walking on the trail. That has happened before.
That shouldn't be allowed. I mean, I totally get
Well,
the
but it's private
pool and the
property, yeah.
pickleball
Right,
and that
and
kind of
that's all
stuff.
But they're saying they're not
self-contained
going to do
and-
that.
Okay.
But they could. if-
Another key distinction is, like Craig said, they're selling a lifestyle to empty nesters who are paying substantially
Yeah, yeah.
more in dues to maintain all those amenities versus what a normal HOA, single-family community would be. Because it's designed for 55 and up and in a condominium setting.
Can you make sure the microphone's
Yeah,
directed
it's just,
to
yeah,
whoever?
pass it back and forth, sorry, it catches better
Yeah.
on the video.
Mr. Riley, did you have a comment?
Yes, at the risk of belaboring the point about the plating
Thank you.
and the fee simple lots, I wanted to make something clear. Really, the authority for the public to require new public streets is really vested in the plating statute. And so when we talk about that northernmost road and the western road going up, plating is really the cleanest way to establish that as a new public road. And so that's a big part of the reason why we've talked with Epcon and said, look, it makes more sense to go ahead and plat the lots that abut that street to the north. There can actually be a covenant or a note in the plat requiring that those streets, if it's part of your zoning order, that those lots actually become part of a condominium association. And that's important for the reasons your legal counsel just said, basically that once they become a condominium, it essentially dissolves the fee simple lot lines within that area. I also wanted to point out, and this wasn't raised earlier, but being your engineer for matters of road and bridge maintenance, something very important to consider is the difference between public streets and private streets. As contemplated, at least the streets that are internal to the development are being proposed as private condominium drives. Very important distinction there because those streets will be maintained and paid for by the residents of that neighborhood. Just to give you kind of a dollar figure, it costs about $170,000 per mile to resurface a public street, assuming it's 24 feet wide. The original development plan for Evans Farm, again, I'm not here to advocate either way, I just want to make sure you're making an informed decision. The original development plan did have some loop public streets that would be maintained by the public and paid for each time those have to be resurfaced.
And plowed and
Correct.
all that kind of stuff, yeah.
Thank you.
And just to back up, so here are these lots, even though there's no lots, there'd be 6,480 square feet, 6,480, and then what Evans required was 5,400, so they aren't larger, is that correct? Okay.
Another question for Epcon. Do the homes around the patios, I've seen a number of Epcon developments that have like privacy fences around them, so my neighbor whose house is right next door to mine can't see what I'm doing in my patio. Is that the design here?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay.
Yes.
So there's privacy within their patio area. Question about the townhomes. If I'm looking at it from outside of the Epcon community, what I like to see, because all of Evans is single-family homes, unless you're in the center area where it's the multifamily, right? But the townhomes are very different looking. There's a community that's not an Epcon community, but it's very garage focused, whereas Evans, as we know, is not garage focused. It is garage in the back, right? So what's the reason that we need to include the townhome and the duplex
Yeah,
model?
I had the same
at all
question.
in this versus just doing, so we've got 129 single family, so maybe versus doing 140 single family and having, because that would take away one of your divergences, and then you would have all just single family homes.
Yes, thank you for the question, Trustee Faust. You know, the biggest reason for us offering the townhome in this community is that it provides a more financially accessible option, diversifies our product. It's the only age-targeted townhome in Central Ohio that's being built. We've heard from people that walked in our doors that they want to be in an Epcon home. They want to be in a quality home when they age in place. But $650,000 detached courtyard home is financially out of reach. And we designed this product 4 years ago based on that feedback. And it's been very successful. It's owner-occupied. And it achieves the same layout that our other detached courtyard homes achieve for our buyers, where there's a first floor living, first floor owner suite, and it allows it's 2-bedroom. It's a 2-bedroom. It's not, you can add a 3rd bedroom just like you can on any of our other homes. But it allows for separation of guest space upstairs, and it's first floor living completely for the owner. That's why we'd like to propose it here.
So the second floor is the 2nd bedroom and possibly the 3rd if the owner
Yes,
chooses
just,
to
yeah,
do
similar
that.
to adding a 3rd bedroom on our other homes,
Which would all be on
yes.
the 2nd floor
Correct.
in the other homes.
And if I could, they're designed to complement our single-family ranch homes. So they are grouped together, 4 or 2 together, but from the exterior, they blend in seamlessly with our single-family ranch homes, and from the rear as well. In the rear, they're single-story, and they're only, 2-story or 1.5 stories in the front. So we've incorporated into, into another community locally, and people, have a difficult time finding where the townhomes are because they do blend in so well to everything else that we offer.
What is the cost, what is the estimated price range for those units, the duplexes and the townhomes?
I actually have some data for you. Just summarizes these things and make it a little easier to see. This is the price range of our homes and values around this.
Thank you.
But does it break it down that shows the townhomes?
Yeah, the townhomes would be the $500,000 value, and then our homes will go up to, we project $925,000.
So the
That's
townhomes
the
are
range, yes.
500,000. What
Correct.
about the duplexes?
Oh, it's the same. It's
So the
unit.
duplexes are just 2, instead of putting 4 together, we're putting 2 together. It's the same product.
Same.
Oh,
Two,
Oh,
but
so
it's
it
just-
looks the same.
It's just size,
It
yeah.
just has 4.
Yeah.
So, and these pricing that we have, you can actively see throughout, throughout the Columbus region, where we're garnering these type of prices for our product here.
And
So
how-
our average delivery that we based the $1.3 million school surplus on was based on an average delivery of $650 throughout all 159 homes, where we calculated in the 30 townhomes that are at, 500,000 delivered.
so the duplexes look just like the
2 towns, instead of a 4-pack, it's 2 together. yeah.
instead of a 4-pack of what?
Instead of,
Of houses.
But the other ones are detached, right? All the rest are
The
detached.
129 are detached, yes.
But you said 2 versus 4. Where are the 4 at?
there are 28 townhomes that are 4 units, and there's 1 duplex on the far east
okay.
of
Right
the
by
community,
South Old State
close to English Drive, yes. It's also important to note that we understand that our product's different. Our product is very specific to the demographic that is looking to purchase our homes, and we made an effort to design the site so that all of our homes are basically, for the most part, facing the interior of our streets, on our private streets, with the exception of the 15 lots to the north. And that's where the town architect had restricted specific homes that could be built on there, so that there was more consistent with Evans Farm.
So there's, are there 16, are there 8 duplexes? And
Seven.
7?
7 quadplexes
Yes.
and 1 duplex.
Okay.
I just realized I had another question for Rob Riley. Sorry. Do all collector roads have to be 35 miles an hour versus 25? Because Walkerwood is 25, I think Gooding is 25. Those are both collector. I know you gave examples of some other roads that were 35. So my question is, do we have to make it 35 miles an hour?
Yeah, and that's a fair question.
Don't get me wrong,
I have
they
the same
drive,
question.
40 on Walkerwood Boulevard.
No, well, that's what I'm saying, they're gonna go 35, they'll go
Right,
50.
so if it's set at 35, they're gonna go 50.
Or is it just being designed as 35, and then once you do your engineering, it could be 25?
It will be designed to safely handle 35 miles per hour. So basically, the curvature, both horizontally and vertical, would be designed to safely handle 35 miles per hour. It's a bit of a chicken and egg, you know, ideally, you want to set a speed limit that's reasonable, so the folks that are driving along the road, if they don't know what the speed limit is, whatever speed they're driving or feels appropriate is the speed limit. That's what we try to target, what we shoot for when we design new roads. What you said, Trustee Faust, is absolutely correct. You look at Walkerwood Drive, it's a big, wide, straight road. People routinely drive 35, 40 miles an hour. I have no doubt of that. The reality is, looking back, we probably should have made that 35 miles an hour. And the reason for that, and I'm not trying to be callous when I say that, the job of the sheriff and law enforcement is to really pick out the people that are really just out of bounds. They're out of the normal traffic flow. The sheriff wants to target those individuals and let the people that are just trying to go about their business get where they're going at a reasonable speed.
Okay. Is the speed limit on Pye at 35?
Yes, it is.
Okay.
Yes.
And Evans Farm Drive, that feels like it's 25.
It is 25 through the,
Through
it
the
is
hot dog.
25 mile an hour, since you have crosswalks, you have
Right.
businesses and pedestrian traffic really focused in that area.
Okay. I think that was all for you. All right, now I got some for Zenios. You want to pass him the mic? Thanks. Okay, 10 years ago, we had a conceptual plan, and I don't know if you were involved in the development at that point, because I know developers have changed and that kind of stuff in the time. Can you explain to us the difference of conceptual plan that was, proposed and given to the neighboring communities and the township as a whole versus where we are now, we've done the engineering, we know for real where the streams are and where the wetlands are and that kind of stuff?
Yeah, and Michelle, if you can go to, I put a note here, if you can go to Rob's page 17 of his slides, please, if you can find it. So 10 years ago, I wasn't part of the development team, but to a great extent, the plan that it was set forth 10 years ago is being fulfilled as part of our master plan. Obviously, we adjust as we go, as we learn things from trying to paint something that is so large on a wall to actually seeing what is happening on the market. All the principles from my standpoint, and I stand by that, I'm proud to say that have been met and been enhanced. We're proud with the attraction that the neighborhood is getting. Specifically to the plan in this section, just a couple of things that I wanna talk about that is different from the plan that it was approved 10 years ago. The connection at the time when the plan was approved had the English to the reserve, which is the intersection north of the one that it is now.
Okay.
And we would have loved that to be the case because that would have connected the extension of our neighborhood to our reserve. It makes absolute sense to be the
Yeah.
case. Well, I'll go over there. Where's Rob Riley? the engineer's office had a traffic study, followed that approval, that basically said the road moves down. That's nothing that we had control over, nor frankly we preferred. That is what it is. So once that road came down, and that was 16, yeah, that study was after the approval process. So once English got relocated, the proposed English got relocated south, then we had to connect those 2 points, right? So I think what we try to design here with our partners in mind, and the neighbors in mind, the intent was try and connect between those 2 points, maximizing our partner's interest and minimizing the impact south of English. The previous design showed a bunch of homes south of English. The plan now, again, the plan to the left, it's a moot point because that doesn't exist. Once the road got moved down by English, then obviously we're down to the geography that you see on the right slide. Mm-hmm. So we have much less density south of English, abutting our neighbors to the south, than we had on the preliminary plan that was approved 10 years ago.
Which I think we understand, except that they were under the impression that the lots abutting their existing lots would feel similar to what they have.
So again,
and that's different.
yes, happy to talk about that. Again, talking about the timeline is a really important piece here.
Yeah. Rob, do you want to speak to why we had to connect to where we did?
I do.
Yeah.
I would, thank you. So what Mr. Zenio said is accurate. The decision to move English Drive from where it was originally planned, which was at the reserve, the Section 3 as we call it, I think it's 18 lots on the east side of Old State. You know, when we look at a development plan, back in 2015, when we looked at the traffic study, we look at these things in 2 dimensions, X and Y, you know, a flat piece of paper. Frankly, without getting into the engineering and really diving into the details, some of this stuff doesn't come to light until later. One of the big issues here is you have a crest, you have a hill essentially right at Sunglow, and then as you go north, the road goes down. It would be very difficult at this point to build a new intersection, a new major intersection across from the reserve. Sunglow is just a better place to put the intersection for a couple reasons. First off, it's more or less at the top of the hill. You can see as you're turning out both left and to the right. Secondly, having a traffic signal at that location, Michelle, I don't know if you have a map showing.
Oh, because there's the 2 developed. Go to the one where he showed us in his plan with the like
shows,
1993,
Willow Spring
2000.
North,
Yeah, because
so-
it connects that Willow Spring North and Willow Spring South connect, right, with the road on the east.
We had it. So you've got, I don't know, several dozen homes in Willow Springs that, if I'm any one of those lots, and I'm wanting to go south on Old State, guess what? I'm going to the signal. I would not want to try to.
If
turn
you
left.
lived in that
If I
section
had a
2 of
signal.
Willow Springs North, you're gonna go
Correct.
up to that light,
Yes.
and that versus them just having to turn out and brave it.
Correct.
Okay. Okay.
So if I could just add to that, if you go back to that 17, Michelle, now that we got it down, thank you. So we've got English being relocated to the south. We've got the no curb cuts from English all the way to the Oval. And now we're left with what we have to the south. The only way to put single-family lots to the south without putting any curb cuts on English would be an alley up against our property line, backing up to the neighbors to the south. There's no other way to do this. And I believe that a blacktop in the back of your yard, looking at garage doors, would be a significantly higher impact to our neighbors than the alternative offered here. We had if I line up single-family lots south of English, we can get 10 lots with yards that are backing up to the neighbors. The only way that I can service them, and you see them all over Evans Farm, is with an alley load at the back that is going to be bordering our neighbors to the south. In anticipation of that, we took that out. It made a ton of sense, knowing that we need to be friendly next door. And it makes sense to the plan. It makes sense for us too. You incorporate green space. You work with a partner that they're outdoor. It's not even in their backyard. So it increases your green space instead of looking at garage doors and blacktop.
So whereas the community, the puzzle piece just to the west of this, and I don't know if you can pull up the lot count and space exhibit, I don't know if we have that in the application, Michelle. It's the whole Evans Farms layout, I don't know if we have that one. Anyway, so basically it's the puzzle piece just to the west, that where we said the front doors of the homes are going to face English. It looks like you're showing an alley servicing that.
There's no other way to service them.
Right, so is there a reason, and this may get everybody fired up, that we can't have this Epcon community in that puzzle piece to the west? But again, but keep in mind, you're still gonna end up with the alleys and the alley and looking at the backyard, the back of the homes.
Well,
It would be a total rework.
Trustee, we also believe it's lower impact. We've documented that with school children, less traffic based on less people, less occupancy. These Epcon communities are quieter. There's not a whole lot going on in the open space behind an Epcon condo.
Right, no, I totally get that. It's just that my understanding with Evans as a whole is that the original plan was we were gonna have the smaller lots, and granted, I realize some of them feel larger, but smaller lots more to the center and the larger homes on the outskirts of the community, whereas this feels smaller. I've been in a number of Epcon communities. They're lovely. The amenities are lovely. The homeowners love them. They blend with the community. I mean, all good things about the Epcon product. But the homes feel closer together, more like the center of the Evans Farms community versus the Bryn Mawr community.
I mean, I do agree that, our lots are less in size than Bryn Mawr, but what we're offering is what was already been stated, a 6480 typical building size for our homes, right? It's not a lot, it's a condo, but essentially it's designed around a 120 by 54, right, which is 6,480. We're 20% higher than what Evans is allowed to put right along this area where it would be all alley load. Really for Epcon, we look at ground all the time. The puzzle piece to the west of this really doesn't fit where we can get the configuration we're looking for to really, build the community that we're quite proud of. That's shown here that we're asking for.
But the
approval to.
community, what's the square footage of a half-acre lot? Anybody know that? 20,000?
22,000.
21,000, so the community was under the impression, based on the conversations that Evans had with them when the development started, that they were gonna get 21,000 square foot homes or properties abutting theirs. And yes, we understand that 64,000 is higher than the minimum required of 55,000.
Or, you mean 6,000?
Yeah.
Thank you. Help me on the numbers. They were under the impression, based on a number of community meetings, they were enticed to buy into the idea of Evans. And I think as a whole, Orange Township has embraced Evans, and it's a fantastic addition to our community. We love it, right? But they were told that it was going to look like them, at least the street abutting them.
Yeah.
Trustee Faust, there's no restriction in the Evans text that's an approved zoning for this area that it could be all single-family Epcon. So what that would mean is if you get rid of the townhomes and the thing goes 100% courtyard homes, what Epcon would have to do, though, is get rid of the perimeter open space. The reason they're doing townhomes in part is because that saves perimeter open space to provide buffering.
But we
If-
don't
if-
have to have 159 lots.
Yeah, how many single-family, how many detached
We do for
units
our
are
business.
there? How many detached are there?
There's currently 129.
But plus and it's a total of 159, including the duplexes, right?
Correct. So there's
Okay.
one duplex and there's 7 quadplexes.
See, the problem with the whole situation is when Evans Farm came in, it was just a conceptual plan. And everyone bought into all the verbal statements about free baseball fields, open to the community. There was going to be a Y, there was going to be all these community amenities. And I kept saying, none of this is in the text, none of this is in the plan, it's not enforceable. And here we are, unfortunately. Because, and I did not, I mean, I support Evans Farm now, but I did not back then, simply because it was a conceptual plan. I did not vote for it, because I knew that these issues would come up. You know, instead of having nice baseball fields for kids, we have Jennings Sports Park. We were going to have, a pool and all these different things. It's all conceptual. So what they're bringing in almost meets the conceptual plan, with the exception of the duplexes and the townhomes, correct? So, for better or for worse, most of this does meet what was approved in zoning. It's not, there aren't a lot of massive divergences. The lots are in conformity even though there aren't lots, because normally a zoning comes in and it's a piece of property and they say there will be 100 units and they're going to be this big and these are going to be the architectural standards. There was really none of that with Evans. It was just an overall conceptual plan where they could build so many single-family, so many multifamily, anywhere, pretty much. So that's the issue that we're grappling here. What's appropriate, what could be built, or what could be approved? Is this really a huge divergence? So it's the conceptual plan that kind of led a lot of people into thinking that something else would be built here, unfortunately.
So
Can you remove the duplexes and the townhomes? Because I strongly object to those.
No, it's not something we really can entertain. And again, we've come in here with a plan that is very considerate of all the adjoiners, the overall master plan for Evans Farm, wherein we're not asking for, Evans Farm is not asking for additional density. They're not asking for a product type that's not allowed throughout Evans Farm. It's simply a relocation of it. When you look at our modifications, the first one is the duplexes and townhomes. It's just simply, it is a method, one, to get more in conformance with the ideals of the comp plan, to bring in, diversity of product, diversity of housing types, and diversity of price, right? With all those three things, we're still delivering, at an average delivered to $650, with less services being consumed by all the residents, and a $1.4 million, $1.3 million surplus to the school system. In addition, we have 38% open space. So where we don't have driveways, an alley-loaded path that's going to take out the tree line, the existing tree line that separates the two developments today, with two-car garages facing the existing residents, we now have substantial open space with berms, plantings to break up the scenery, provide a benefit to everybody that's traversing English Drive, a pond, and only 6 homes that are contributing to the overall financial boon for not only the schools but the town, right? With private roads throughout the majority of our homes.
Yeah, there's several advantages to it, but I just feel like there's still almost the same amount of traffic. I mean, it's still very similar, and I just wish it was a little bit less
Trustee Knapp,
dense.
it isn't the same amount of traffic, especially, it's not the same amount of traffic in the sub-area, and it is definitely not the same amount of traffic in overall Evans Farm. If you were to have 159 single-family homes or 100 single-family townhomes on the oval, and we're asking to move them, you're generating 10 trips, 11 trips per home, where we generate half.
Well, versus the conceptual plan, I should say.
Well, any plan.
Any plan, the conceptual plan or not, with the traffic that's being generated, like, these units are going to be built in Evans Farm.
This is 944 and
by the plan that's
879.
approved. So
If I can, just for clarification purposes, these attached units are basically a shift from the units to be built in the oval. It's not an addition, and the impact, it's internal to their plot, It's organic to their designs, and they're gonna have less impact than our townhomes will have in the Oval, frankly. So
Yeah, it would
So-
have less impact than if there were 159
So do the
built.
30 multifamily units come out of the maximum 1,310 multifamily units
that is
in
correct.
Evans?
This is-
Yeah.
Okay.
This is
Separate.
a move of a density, not an addition.
But what you're saying, I'm just reiterating, what you're saying is because these are the age-directed homes, there's a greater chance if we had those 30 multifamily lots closer to the Oval, you're gonna get a young family versus this is you're gonna get the empty nester family type.
But I think this counts towards single family. Is this counting towards
The
single family?
129 count toward, when I look at this sheet one, lot coverage and open space on their application, so they count the 129 in the, out of this, coming out of the 1,046 single-family
Single-family,
units.
okay, and the rest come out of
30 coming
multifamily,
out of
okay.
that multifamily.
Do-
Okay,
Mr. Chairman,
yeah.
if I could,
Sorry.
and Julie may help me with this, but I think it's important to kind of reel back a little bit here and talk about how your code guides the trustees, guides the planning commission, zoning commission on making these decisions. There's a set of legal criteria here. It's not enticement happened before, or the history, or changes in the market. There's a set of standards to make this decision. And I want to read those for you, if I may. I'll try to be brief. The criteria to evaluate any zoning change, whether it's an initial zoning or a modification, set of modifications like this, are under the code. This appears in 4 different sections of the code. The criteria are whether the proposed development is consistent with all aspects with the purpose, intent, and general standards of the zoning resolution, whether the proposed development is in conformity with the comprehensive plan or portion thereof as it may apply, whether the proposed development advances the general welfare of the township in the immediate vicinity. Starting with prong 1 of that test, Epcon's text generally, it's really to be evaluated. I enjoy the ocean, I enjoy ocean sound. It's really supposed to be evaluated against the Evans text, because that's the zoning that governs here, not the code. But as we talked about, and you guys have dealt with over time, the modifications we're asking for this Epcon product have been very regularly approved with other Epcon communities to allow this beneficial condominium setting for patio and ranch homes. Prong 2 of the test is comp plan conformity. Kelly's PowerPoint went into significant detail and documented the portions of the comprehensive plan that call for the township to support and promote senior and empty nester housing. Her slides note the direct recognition in the comp plan that senior housing avoids inflating schools with students and limits traffic. That's something that's been documented in your comprehensive plan. That's on page 75. She also documented in her presentation the 55-plus population projections, how the projections and the need for people to age in place in Orange Township are growing. Again, that's part of what was identified in the comp plan. The comp plan represents the outline and the guide for growth in the entire township. It represents the body politique of the people of this township documenting what they think and how they think the township can grow as adopted by you as trustees. It's a broader township-wide scope that we're talking about. It sets a legal basis for policy decisions and land use decisions as opposed to some of the things we've been talking about tonight. Epcon's plan for senior housing does include diverse housing types, as we've said. That's one of the reasons we're trying to add several different types of products. That's very consistent with the comp plan discussion of senior housing. In terms of the general welfare part, and that's the prong 3 of the test, of your criteria for approval, evidence directly from the Olentangy Local School District about the lack of school-age children, 17 out of 560 existing Epcon units, that documents lower traffic numbers. It documents a very large surplus of over $1 million a year that this community will produce to support the school system without producing the kids to educate. Kelly also demonstrated that how Epcon worked with the county engineer on the Rock Drive issue. That was Epcon that drove that discussion and process to delay that, to take care of safety. That's a direct general welfare and safety benefit of this this community. Rob Riley and her also pointed out that the streets maintained by the condo association at significant cost is a direct benefit to the township taxpayers because they're not going to be public internally. The private recreational amenities inside an Epcon community mean that their folks tend to use the amenities there, not put additional pressure on parks that the equivalent single-family homes would. All these benefits of the Epcon community supports that general welfare prong and test in your code. And that is how the decision needs to be made here on those 3 items, that test that's throughout your code. Another big general welfare benefit is the sheet that Kelly turned out that documents value. If there's one thing that's throughout Ohio zoning law and case law over time, it's that one of the key purposes of zoning is to protect existing housing values. Okay, let's go through the numbers. The median housing value in the township in 2024, median, Orange Township, is $465,724. Epcon's Clear Creek community was selling at a clip in 2024 at $651,090 on average. That was their sales in 2024. The current Zillow average, Zillow, because I think that's more accurate for the market than using auditors' numbers, the current Zillow average values, market values for Avonlea, the surrounding community Avonlea, is $611,000. It's $609,269 for Bryn Mawr. It's $585,329 for Willow Springs North, respectively. We think with our range of townhomes and high-end courtyard homes, we're going to be at $650, matching Clear Creek, the current Clear Creek sales, with this community in Evans Farm. Epcon has a track record of delivering that kind of housing value in 6 other communities in Orange Township and really all over central Ohio. It'd be very difficult for anybody to produce evidence and to talk about that Epcon would be negative to home values. If anything, will be positive. One very important point, it's an industry point, but it's very true. When people in the existing communities surrounding this area, the single-family conventional homes, when they go to sell, they're not going to be competing against additional single-family homes if Epcon's approved. Epcon homes are different. They have different buyers. They don't compete with resale of existing larger lot single-family homes. That's a positive thing. High values, but it's a different product, different buyer, and they're not competitive. When somebody's trying to sell an existing single-family home in this market, it's pretty easy. But what they don't want is 90 new build homes, a lot like theirs, coming on the market. That's a positive thing. That goes to that general welfare test. We're complementary to the existing community. We're consistent with the comp plan that calls for senior housing need. You guys had a hearing on January 8th, earlier this year. There was an apartment developer with a mixed-use project. If you go back and listen to that transcript, I think there were about 8 Epcon divergences or modifications that were cited when Clear Creek was approved because of this very comp plan reason that was cited during hearing by one of you, stating to that developer, but Epcon supports the schools. Epcon fits our comprehensive plan for senior housing. The same thing's true today that was 6 weeks ago. And I guess my point is, the decision on this case has to be made with your code, with those factors, with that 3-part test, not based on other issues. It has to track that decision-making in that code section. Mr. Chairman, I will come back at the appropriate time when you say I do want to create a record tonight. I do want to move our exhibits into the record. And Julie Donnan may help me with that because Julie Donnan knows how to do those things better than me. But I will do that because I think it's important that Kelly's presentation and the data on how home values is part of the record of this hearing. So I'll ask your indulgence when the time is right for that. Thank you.
Do you want to open it? Do you?
Public
I had a-
Yeah.
I had a couple more
But do you
things.
want, why don't we just open it up and then we can ask more, because it's
Okay,
been
yep,
waiting for
that's
2
great.
hours.
Yep.
Okay.
Do we need to take like a rest break to go to the bathroom?
Yes.
Okay. Can we take like a
2-minute?
Recess?
2 minutes? There's only 2 bathrooms. Yeah.
But
Can we
it's-
take like a 5-minute recess?
Yeah.
Michelle?
We'll open it with, we'll do public comment next,
Yeah.
since you've all been waiting very patiently. And then we can ask more Wait, my hearing loss is on the left side. Oh, good. Okay, that's perfect
I
then.
can hear you. I can hear.
Oh, wait.
No, I can't hear you.
You can't hear me.
But your voice is higher, so I can't. It's his level, I can't hear.
I lost upper levels.
Thank you, everyone. We're going to come back from our recess. We're going to go into public comment. So for public comment, please, if you'd like to speak, if you've got any questions, please direct them to the board, and then the board will then ask them of the applicant after all of public comment has been said and done. Please state your name and your address for the record. And then we also ask that if you have the urge to applause, that you please hold it in until after the hearing. That way we can get through as many public comments as possible. So without further ado, we'll open it up.
Hello? Okay. Good check. Hello, Kylie Baylor, 2800 Pebble Drive, Bryn Mawr. Did I cover all the parts?
Yes, you did.
All right, thank you. Most of my neighbors all know me. You guys, some of you I haven't met. I just want to make sure I get the right, is it Mr. Zenios or is it Zenios? Zen. Okay, got it? Pay respect. Okay, and sir, you're the engineer, gentleman. Your name is?
My name is Rob Riley.
Rob Riley.
Deputy engineer.
Thank you, thank you. I may just go with engineer. if That's okay.
That's fine.
Can someone pull up the, is it plat? Is it lot? I'm not educated.
The
on
overall
these
development
things.
plan?
Yes, thank you, that. So, on Old State today, which is a connector or an artery?
Arterial.
Arterial.
Oh, okay.
I'm learning.
There'll be a quiz.
On that particular road, when you're going to enter a community, there's typically signage that says Willow Springs, Bryn Mawr, I don't know, the Shores, whatever the case may be, right? So I kind of know where I'm at. Rock Drive, my understanding is there will be no signage for that because that particular, what we see here, is not owned by Bryn Mawr, thus we can put no signage on Bryn Mawr. Is that correct?
I don't know, but we'll be happy to ask the question.
Yeah.
So Bryn Mawr can't put signage to say, welcome to Bryn Mawr, because there's no place to put the signage.
There might be an
South of
easement.
that are people's properties, like their side yard or backyard.
There might be an easement if you look at your plat, I'm not sure, but sometimes there was a lot provided for an easement that you might be able to put your own sign in, just FYI.
So there's a point, is there an easement on both sides or an easement just on the Bryn Mawr side?
I'm not sure, but a lot of times they do include a place where you could put a sign. It would be in probably someone's yard, though.
It's important. I don't know if we have everybody here, but those residents have not been told what we just discussed, right? So the point of me coming up today is that there's a substantial, there's been probably the best sales pitch I've heard in a while from the property folks. This is a very professional company. They build a solid product, and they've demonstrated that they intend to do so here. My opinion is I have no problems with what Epcon is trying to do. What I have a problem with is essentially exactly what Trustee Knapp stated earlier. We kind of had an idea of what was supposed to happen. We all said, that sounds great. If someone would have said to me then, by the way, we're going to have some homes with the garage in front, and we're going to kind of maybe make it more condo style over here near you, we would have definitely had something to say then, right? But we didn't have that opportunity because the concept was nothing close to where we are today. And so now we've heard 2 hours worth of there's a legal burden in all of this, and there's a lot to that, and I understand. I'm not trying to say we should violate the law, but I feel, and maybe the group might feel a little bit, does it feel like a little bit getting muscled, you know? There's a feeling of, well, you didn't ask then, we're changing up the game plan, and see you in court if you don't like it, right? That's what it felt like to me today, right? And I don't know what the rest of the folks here would think, but that's how it felt like to me, and I've lived here now for 15 years, right? I live here. That Rock Drive, when you go on the other side, that's my house, okay? So I have a vested interest in where this goes, and that's where my questions were going. So I'm basically creating a new entrance to my neighborhood, coming off of a connector street. Did I get it right? Oh, I'm getting better. 35 miles an hour. People may drive the speed limit, they may not. The sheriff has to handle that, right? There's no entrance, but I basically know that I can turn into this neighborhood, which may or may not have signage. Then later on to the west, there's still the same conversation. Well, we've got to create the alleys. Can we maybe have that comparison? I'm not sure. There was a comparison of the old and the new. Yes, that one. I cannot see that one on the left to save my life. I do not know what that's about. But what I can see is down to the lower right. That's a little cutout road. That's not directly on English Drive. When we looked at that 10 years ago, there's a big difference between entering a neighborhood and using a connector road. Even if the connector road was intended, as we heard from the engineer from the beginning, that to me doesn't look like a connector, right? It looks like I'm connecting into a neighborhood, right? I would have been shocked if you told me we're going to drive 35 miles an hour down that road because it looks pretty residential. We also looked at that connection on Rock Drive as being, these are homes like us. So yes, it's exactly what the engineer said. It's from neighborhood to neighborhood. Now look over there to the right. There's no homes there. It's just a road with a bike path, walking path, and an entrance to Rock Drive, and then the entrance to the homes that are part of the Epcon community. So if I'm not going to Epcon and my goal is to go to the sports park or some other part of Evans Farm, am I doing 35? Am I doing 25? Probably not, because there's no reason for me to stop once I turn onto English Drive, right? And I didn't hear all the answers associated with how those driveways were going to look when we go to the west. I know you asked that question. I didn't feel like that got answered. Why am I standing here saying all these things? Because we talked about a lot for 2 hours, but I don't feel that we got to the heart of when we started here, we're now in some other place, and it feels like, as I said earlier, yeah, we're going to go down that path or else, right? What I would love to know is what residents, people who actually live here, not just do business here, not make their money here, but actually live here, raise their kids here, plan to be buried here, all of the things that make a community, how many of those people would say, yeah, that sounds like we were not lied to, this sounds like the right thing, it doesn't feel like it's being muscled, right? I hope that the future of our community is not developers coming in saying, sorry, your paperwork isn't very sound, we're going to do what we want to do. Because that's what it's felt like tonight. I would urge this trustee group to vote no. Know that you have the support of the community, if myself starting as number one, on whatever you decide to do, but I encourage you, representing us, to represent us when you vote tonight. And whatever comes after that, you also have our support. That's all I had to say tonight. Thank you.
Thank you.
And also, when people come up, if you have the same opinion as someone that spoke before you, can also say, you know, I agree with everything they said, and then add on more. It's up to you.
My name is Cyril Albert. I live at 2847 Pebble Drive. My property is the one that abuts English Drive at its lowest point at 85 feet. So my backyard has now got 3,000 cars going through it on a consistent basis, minimum. Based off, and I want to thank the engineer for coming at the zoning meeting. A lot of misinformation, certainly self-serving information was presented, and I do thank the engineers for coming. I also thank you guys for actually asking real questions. I think the zoning commission did a disservice to the community. So I am against this. If you listen to the presentations, this is the greatest thing since sliced bread hit the toaster, but the community's here saying no. So it does fail the third test. Is this good for the community? The community says no.
Thank you.
My name is Bill Henderly. I live at 2310 Home Road, Delaware, Ohio, in Liberty Township. So I'm not from Orange Township, but I appreciate the opportunity to come forward. I've spoken with you before. I come with a different perspective, a different angle, and I don't work for the schools. I'm retired. did investment management for 45 years, football official for 35 years, college 25 years, coached baseball 25 years, and do a lot of activities. Involved quite a bit here more this year, met with all 3 Delaware County commissioners, all 4 school districts in Delaware County, and also including Westerville City Schools. Have a meeting this weekend with a lobbyist for the 3 Delaware County commissioners, and we're talking about schools. I don't have the history on this project, but I got a call at about 5:15 tonight and said, hey, there's this meeting going on, and that call was from one of the Olentangy School Board members. And I changed clothes real quick and headed over. So I've been talking a lot to a lot of people about the impact of development on the stressed roads that we have here, the infrastructure, emergency services, and including big-time schools. Schools represent, as you know, 70 to 80% of each one of our real estate tax bills. And they're not getting any smaller. We cannot say this project is age-based only. You cannot exclude people from coming in. It could be any age group that's coming into these communities and projects. You cannot say it's a low impact on the schools. That's false. As I've been sitting here, I've been interacting text-wise with that school board member all night long. We have extreme density going on here. The average price of a home, 1,500 square foot home in the United States is $325,000. Some of these homes that they're planning on building are 1,500 square feet. Those that they mentioned in Clear Creek, 1,519 square feet, another all the way up to 1,776 square feet, starting at prices in the 400s. I just said the average price in the United States of a 1,500 square foot home without a basement is $325,000. Why are we premium pricing for these homes? It's because Olentangy Schools can allow them to premium price for the brand. But the schools don't make out. You know, we're talking about an operating challenge to the schools, and that's all I hear them talking about is the operating side of the benefit of what they're doing. They're not talking about the capital side at all. When we bring new students to this school district, we have to build new schools, and we don't have those schools. We just failed in November 5 schools to be built in Olentangy because the taxpayers are saying we've had enough of paying for taxes for schools, roads, infrastructure, and police and fire and parks, while these guys get TIFs and tax abatements for everything they do. Why? Why do the taxpayers have to keep paying more and more and more? Why are they not helping build schools? I didn't say build them 100%. Taxpayers are willing to help build schools, but we cannot do it alone. You go out knocking on doors around the community if you're running for office, and you find out how many people say, I don't know how much longer I can afford to live here. You go knocking on doors, and you got parents of school-aged high school students there, and they say, I can't wait till my students graduate and I'm out of here. So we need to be very mindful of the impact that we're having on everything around here, the services, the schools, the roads, the infrastructure, and so on and so forth. I would encourage you to table this project and reconsider it after you rework to a lesser density. The time is critical for what we're doing right now. We can talk about Dublin-Scioto, or Worthington-Kilbourne, and what happened there 25, 30 years ago, and those schools are not the same schools that were when they first built. And that's happening right here in Olentangy right now. But
Can you
nobody
speak
knows it.
specifically to that? Because I was not,
I'm sorry?
I don't know about what happened with Kilbourne. Can you speak to that specifically?
So what was the whole composition of building around those high schools changed them dramatically in the course of 25 years. That's happening right here, right now in the Olentangy School District, but the public doesn't know it, and the whole community spirit is changing because of what we have going on. We've got to be very careful about what we're doing. So I've gone a little bit too long. One other comment. They talked about an 8-foot wide walking trail through the project. I'm not sure if Orange Township also follows the Opal standard, but Opal calls for a 10-foot wide path so you can walk or ride on those paths. 8 foot's pretty narrow, and it doesn't take but a couple people to make 8 foot not very passable. That's a little trivial thought, but I don't know if Opal applies here or not, but it does in other areas. So, anyway, I appreciate your time, I appreciate your consideration, and thank you for allowing me to speak, and sorry I'm over from Liberty Township, but anyway, we're all in the same lane, all in the
Thank
same
you.
area.
Hi, my name is Bill Lichty, 5030 Polar Drive. Couple concerns. Number one is traffic. And we heard all this stuff about how it's better now, and it's less in traffic. Boy, South State sure doesn't seem like that. It's, you know, there's a reference made 10 years ago. It's been terrible for the last 2 years, as the horribleness of 23 with lights every 15 feet, all turning red for you, has forced traffic over here. It's been much worse than the last 2 years. We already got the lights between Lewis Center Drive and Orange, 3 little lights that we stop for each one on the way down here. And these lights, it's like the what do they call it in the ponds, going from flower to flower. You stop there and you stop there and you stop there. And I'm concerned with that, especially as traffic comes from the north, comes from Evans Farm, and comes down to South Oak State. Whether they go north or south, it doesn't matter. That light is going to be challenged. It's going to have more traffic diverted there. My second concern was kind of mirrors the one that the first lady mentioned, how single-family residents become condominiums, become townhomes. In 5 years, are we going to be looking at a 300-unit apartment complex? Low-cost housing for seniors. I know that doesn't fit the plan. You know, that doesn't sound like the kind of thing that is really part of the organizations. But it's that progression. And, well, you see, well, we just call this a divergence. And, you know, you put in a large apartment complex and I'm not saying they're going to do that, but what I'm fearing and hearing is that more stuff can happen as a divergence was happening. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. Tom Polakowski, 5311 Sandy Drive in Bryn Mawr. The hard part for the community is the fact that we embraced Evans Farm when it was first conceptualized. We met with the previous developers. They were concerned about the continuity of the neighborhoods, right? Wanted to understand what would it take for us to support it. And in their initial plan, it was there, right? It was the continuity. We had similar sized lots that would have butt. That was brought to us by the developer. We understand. We want the neighborhood to flow. And over the last 10 years around us, what have we watched happen? Exactly that. In every other neighborhood, similar sized lots. If you look at Job Street, right, which abuts the Meadows, right? When I first moved here, we were landlocked. And as the Meadows was built, it opened up to the future. As Evans Farm was built, it opened up even further. And in each one of those, it was the continuity. It was similar size homes. If you go down Job into Evans Farm, it's a 25-mile-an-hour street with curb cuts that abut the Meadows. Why is it that Bryn Mawr, who has supported the development for this entire time, now is the one being told, in order to put this neighborhood in, this development, we have to move the main connector road approximately 600 feet to the south to within 85 feet of your neighborhood, which is established, just so that we can fit our design in. It just doesn't feel right to me. We've lost the connectivity. We're different than the other subdivisions that have gone in, which is we watched it grow. We embraced it. We embraced Evans Farm. Great concept, right? New urbanism, sink to the center. All of a sudden, the density is on our doorstep. The roadway has moved on our doorstep, and I'd much rather have a park there than 137 homes. Thank you.
Thank you.
My name is Lisa Ledke. I live at 2945 Pebble Drive. My property is directly impacted by this development. So my backyard is one of the backyards that will be where the pond is and those patio homes. So I know I'm not going to reiterate, we've been here a long time. We've been coming to every one of these meetings. It's the same comments. So I agree with everything that my friends and neighbors have stated, especially the continuity, right? We came here to have the same structures, the meadows, and to keep that neighborhood going. One of the couple things that I want to add, and this gentleman indicated before, is Epcon is not strictly 55 and over. You guys talked about that a lot at every meeting. Yes, you cater to that lifestyle, but there's nothing saying that another person cannot move in that is younger than 55, right? And you nailed it on the head, I'm not sure which one of you, but when you asked about the townhomes, right? That is definitely what we want to get rid of. And it was like, you mentioned about getting out of that, and the comment was like, no, it's not good for our business. Well, that's great, but this is our neighborhood. And like this, everybody has said, this doesn't fit within the continuity. That English Drive, which is different than what was proposed later, it's really dividing it, right? So now you have our community, we have a dividing major thoroughway, and then we have this Epcon community that is one in itself, right? They don't share their amenities, they're kind of like locking themselves in, keeping themselves out. How is that in line with what we have developed here, right? That's not why we moved here. I've been here 10 years, and we moved here for that atmosphere that we have now, right? The other concern that I have is traffic coming out of Bryn Mawr. So coming off of Prairie Drive to turn left, right? You're gonna put a light right where English is, so it's right up above there. So how are we gonna get out and turn left? Because what's gonna happen is that's gonna back up, right? When that light's going, we don't have a way to get out. It already is an issue. So how are you guys gonna deal with that? I'd like to hear about how that's gonna be fixed, because we all have kids. Not all of our kids are driving yet, but they're going to, and it is already dangerous going left, and that light is just, I feel it's gonna contribute to having even more traffic backed up trying to get out, so we're not gonna be able to get out. The other question I have is, when English, if this plan is such, when is the rest of it gonna happen to connect English to Evans Farm, to alleviate, traffic or get everything's moving that way? How many years is that? Because I feel like it's gonna be 5, 10, it's just gonna cause even more problems. So I'm not gonna stand up here and reiterate a lot of the other notions. I'm here to ask you to kindly vote no to this proposal. We have come out, and the whole neighborhood has come out to support at every single meeting. Obviously, you know how we feel. We want to, keep the integrity of our neighborhoods, keep the reason that we moved here, our schools, our kids, So thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Alice Albert, 2847 Pebble Drive. My property abuts the southern portion of this proposed zoning amendment. I'd also like to state that English Drive curves down and is 85 feet. That was not mentioned in any presentation, 80 feet from my property line. Why? You know, 10 years ago, as everyone has said, Evans Farm came to us, talked to us, wined and dined us, told us about their concept. Okay, great, we bought into it. This is the first time I've seen Mr. Zenos here. He's never talked to me, he's never spoke to me, he never told me about the changes in this proposal. Mr. Griffiths did the same thing, never heard from him. I received a notice from Orange Township about the zoning. It seems a little odd that they were so worried about our opinion 10 years ago, and now they're not. And that's concerning to me. Very, very concerning. It's almost like they're trying to slip something under the radar. But I don't think they saw Bryn Mawr coming. And I want you to know that this is the 5th meeting we've been to. The 5th meeting that we've sat here for over 2 hours telling people what we think, that we don't want it. I don't want a road 85 feet from my home. I was expected a half-acre lot behind my home, and you scoff at that, but to me, that's what I was expected, and that's what I want. I don't want a road that has 3,000 cars going down it on a daily basis at 35 miles an hour. We all know that they'll go faster than that. I probably would. Everyone would. So you have to understand why I'm disappointed that I don't have a home behind my house. And I'd appreciate it if you wouldn't scoff at that anymore. So I hope that you understand that we show up in numbers. You know how we feel. We're here telling you what we thought. We've met with many of you. And I hope that you will listen to what we have to say. And I don't believe that you should be strong-armed. And legally, we are here to back you for that. So thank you for your time.
My name is Mike Navarre. I live at 2937 Pebble Drive. I'll keep this really brief. I also don't want an alleyway or cutting down any of my beautiful trees that screen my backyard from all of this right now. I heard that mentioned that it sounds like a choice, that if Evans Farm would also develop it, that they would knock down all the trees and put an alleyway back there. I'd be adamantly opposed to that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening. I'm Charles Goodwin. I live at 3136 Arctic Avenue over on Willow Springs North. So my property backs up to South Old State. So I'll be looking out my back door across the way, which is currently a pretty cool view. Sunglow is appropriately named, beautiful sunsets. I would just say that it feels like that the continuity that was referenced earlier is really what I think is going to be missing in this project. You know, we've talked about the parcels being 20% bigger than the minimum. So you're talking about a 5,000 square foot parcel versus 6,500. That doesn't square with what we were told, 10 years ago. The other Epcon communities, as I understand it, have been developed near more commercialized areas. This seems like, a square peg in a round hole. You're talking about large parcels surrounding this property, and you're going to put in what is a high density, a much higher density development. They make a lot of good points. This sounds like a great development if it weren't surrounded by 3 large lot developments, potentially 4 if you look to the west as Evans Farms continues to build out. I support Evans Farms. I think it's a great development. This is not consistent with what was proposed 10 years ago. It feels like they're subcontracting, quite frankly, out a significant part of this real estate. And it's a money grab on the part of Evans Farms to sell off some of their property to a reputable developer. It's just in the wrong place. So, thank you.
Thank you.
remember the rest I had to say. My name's Sir Albert. I'm at 2847 Pebble Drive, Lewis Center, Ohio. One comment, when you looked at the original Evans Farm development plan, the high-density units, if you go back to the original zoning, the high-density units are inside near the downtown. If everything is perfect and wonderful, well, then this zoning meeting wouldn't happen. It would just be part of the zoning. But we're changing the zoning, the density. So again, I'm not offering my attorney to threaten you or whatever. I don't take that approach. I mean, would, but not today. So the high-density units, so you talk about half-acre lots, a 21,000 square foot lot. So their development, their product that they're offering, are on a sixth of an acre is what the units are, the 129. The duplexes are on they would be on a 12th of an acre if I did my math correctly. So you're talking about adding the density, packing them in. And also, I went to the Berlin Township zoning meeting. I don't know if you guys are familiar. Evans Farm has sold acreage off to Rockford Homes. They're going to pack 300 units tightly packed into there. So as you trail up through there, as the construction's going on and they're fixing the road at Hollenbach and Old State, and you're living in there, what are you going to do? Oh, I'm going to cut through down through that. So you keep saying, so this 3,000 number, all of a sudden now as that starts to back up, what am I going to do? I'm going to start cutting through Bryn Mawr. I'm going to start cutting through there. And so, but the schools want this, the schools want it. I would tell you, I don't think the schools want a dead child when someone gets run over because somebody blows through the neighborhood.
Hi, my name's Jessie Din. I live at 5304 Meadowbend Drive. There was one question I definitely wanted to bring up with the engineer. There was a clip of his, a slide of his, if you could bring up, that showed the traffic going out to Old State. No.
Was it the one that talked about the different time to get to different
Yes.
places? Okay, towards
And
the end
it-
of the presentation.
Sorry, try to find it.
Okay, this one. Yes, this one here. Okay, so I want to bring up where they're showing this blue line, because this isn't a full picture. So this blue line that they're showing you, I live on Meadow Bend, which is it's Rock, the first little blue line, and then that next section is Meadow Bend, which then goes to Sandy, and then you have Bryn Mawr. Well, Bryn Mawr goes all the way to Meadows, which then goes out to Lewis Center. So you're not getting the kind of traffic that's going to cut through there to try to get to Lewis Center. And I know you were wondering about the traffic study and how many cars were going to be going by. And it is a very, very densely populated in children on this street. My children, my 4 beautiful children, and I don't want a dead child. That this community could bring, and this street that had to go south, had to. Instead of maybe they should just eat it and put it higher so that it isn't an inconvenience to all of the residents who already live here, who are already supporting you, who are already in support of this community. So I think that you don't have all the facts from that picture alone. Also, it was so kind of them to let us use their pond that now we'll have to cross a 35-mile-per-hour road to use or get to. Is that something we really want? Now we're crossing a 35-mile-per-hour road with our children to be able to access a pond? I don't think that's a benefit that we really see here. And And I also would have you take into consideration about traffic being added to Old State now that the state employees, also additionally other companies, are now reinstating that people must go back to brick and mortar, which is also going to cause more traffic onto our streets. I love this community. I urge you to vote no tonight, and we will support you in that decision. And I agree with everything that my neighbors have said. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm Marco Stetler. I live at 5364 Agate Place, and I have a little bit different perspective, but I want to first say that I don't believe Epcon's the villain here. But I do want to tell you a little story. The reason the Delaware County engineers here are talking about 10-year-old traffic data is because that's how long this project's already been going on. And I want to just say from 20 years of home building experience in my background, I just want to tell you what I think's going on here, and that this is just the first of many things that are going to be brought before you as far as changes. But there's such a thing as a business as investor fatigue, and they're getting concerned about returns now. Epcon, very reputable company, they're going to come in and they're going to knock it out, and they're going to monetize that parcel for the overall investment group that's backing Evans Farm. This is the first, if they get this through, it's the first of many more changes that you guys are going to have to face as far as them trying to monetize this because it's been going on so long. So, and another thing to think about is some of those things that they conceptually offer, like Jennings Park. Well, just as an example, my kids were going to Arrowhead when the signs went up for Jennings Park, and they're sophomores in college now. So as far as, some of these amenities, I think you should consider, the timeline of some of those, take those into consideration. Nothing against Epcon. I think conceptually, maybe they could push the units a little more into the center and put some of the open space around the outside if you guys choose to go down this path. I'm not an engineer, but you could roll marble across that 60 plus acres. So there's really no reason for the open space to be in the center from what I can tell. So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, Patsy Kazchuk, 1906 Poplar, and I'm in Evans Farm, so I'm a little bit different than most of the people here. And I came to one of the meetings probably 2 years ago in response to one of the variances that was being requested. And I said, similar to what you just said, that when I bought into Evans Farm, I was one of the early adopters. I moved from out of town to Evans Farm, and we built our house. And we bought into the master plan, and we, as homeowners, have no HOA representation. It's the developer, Zenios. So we rely on you to be our representation. And so every time these requests come in to change variances and all kinds of changes, we have no say. And so everything that we bought into, it's very, very, very different than what we bought into. And, the back the back parcels of land, there was going to be an amphitheater, there's going to be a second retail spot. It's all housing now. It's all apartments and condos and some single-family homes. So here's another request that's very different than what was on the plan. And again, I have nothing against Epcon. There is some patio homes that are lovely, that are already built in the neighborhood, that it's almost like you're putting another product into a neighborhood. Everything that Evans Farm is built on is front porch living. I don't see any of that in your design. We don't have garages from the entrance or the front entrance. That's exactly what your design looks like. It looks like you just plopped another product in the middle of the development. So I mean, Bob Webb built some tremendous homes that are patio homes that are geared toward more senior people. They don't look anything like your product. Your product looks like the same one that's up on Home Road, the same one that's up on Lewis Center Road. It's no different, but it meets none of the standards that we see in Evans Farm. So, I mean, I would consider that. It looks like we just threw up a whole nother thing and put it in the middle of Evans Farm. So I would consider that. And I appreciate all the traffic and that kind of stuff. I, quite frankly, was unaware that that was happening. So I do have a concern because Pyatt Road, I mean, we almost had a kid hit by a car, and that's the main travel to all this new developments that's going on in the back. And now we have Jennings Park open up. And there's only one inlet to Jennings Park right now. So, and now you're putting all this other traffic through there. So I would consider that as well, so.
Thank you.
Hi, my name's Michelle Custodio, and I live at 5277 Meadowbend Drive. Sorry, I'll pull it up here. So I wrote notes down. I'm just going to come and say I agree with everyone that has spoken up before me. I've been in Bryn Mawr. Well, let me just I have an unofficial script. So, you know, Epcon cited the comprehensive land use plan. They talked about, I don't remember the citing, but I want to cite a couple things that I found in that plan. And let me back up. Well, I'm going to cite that first, okay. The first one I just wanted to cite is on page 57. It's Evans Farm is an upcoming development located off of Lewis Center Road in North Orange Township. It will be a mixed-use district, including both residential and commercial development. It is important to note that Evans Farm plans to be the proposed, quote, town center as recommended in the 2010 land use plan, right? So there's that one. If you go down to page 76, it's talking about housing. They did a survey, right? A weakness, housing decisions based on market, not community need. Property taxes rising too quickly. Suggestions and solutions from public meetings. More senior communities without multifamily development. And I think that's what you had cited, is that senior communities, but you didn't put in the without multifamily development. Sorry. Page 77, additional one. I won't read them all, but I'll just, senior housing must be, number 4, senior housing must be planned better to avoid locating in and near multifamily housing units. So that's just, you know, they're talking seniors. The third one on page 121 to 129, you know, there were weaknesses from the surveys that was conducted in 2017. There were 18 weaknesses listed on page 129, 63 on 130, and 44 on 131. There was, out of those pages, there were 44 opportunities and 23 threats. Some of these threats are, number 1 is transportation congestion. Number 6 was Evans Farms traffic. Number 8, developer pressure to meet market desires. And I think that is what was said earlier about these muscles. So if they're going to cite legalities, we're going to cite this common use plan that we have posted on your website that you guys took it as well. And number 14, Old State Road is widened until Orange Road. Then congestion starts north of Orange Road. So, you know, I'm glad that's going to go, the road's going to be expanded down to Avonlea, but you know, we got Avonlea, then we'll have this community, and then we'll have Bryn Mawr. So it's going to be another bottleneck. Sorry. Let me switch here. I will have questions. So I wanted to share that. Tonight, I've been to other meetings as well. Tonight, you guys keep talking about the target is the senior, the empty senior nester, right? The 55 and plus community. And this grouping is only going to have 5 children impact to the school district. I'm proud to say I am part of that senior community. I am 55 and plus, and I do have children in our school district. And I am not the only one in our Bryn Mawr community that I am aware of. I will come out and tell you that I'm over that. So the fact that there's 5 children, I disagree with you on that for the impact. The other thing that I would like to say is, you know, I believe in 2020 that Epcon settled with the United States Department of Justice for 32 condominium properties because they were making them inaccessible to disabilities, right? And I want to say, you guys have kept saying that you're making diverse housing, right? Diverse price ranges, diverse styles, but not once have I heard anybody from the Epcon side talk about diverse, including disabilities or making accessibilities for disabilities. And I believe you guys settled for $2.5 million, and those were from 32 communities up in the Akron area or something is what I saw. I guess I'll go to some of my questions here. So some of my questions, and I have to direct them to the board for you guys to ask them. How will they be making this Epcon community accessible to others that live, or to people that live in the community, let alone all of us that might be coming over to walk through the path or, you know, see the pond? And then for the county engineer, for the accessibility, right? The walkway, we've established that one slide with the walkway. I don't know if you can find the slide that has the proposed road that goes all the way through, where it goes over to the park, please. But the walkability, you know, how can we walk, like somebody else said, I won't go there. But on that walkway, will there be a crosswalk? Will it be handy? Will it be accessible? Or are we gonna have those little dots that they have in big cities so that people that are limited sight can still walk without assistance? Are they gonna have the beeping, you know, of people without sights so that we can hear it at those crosswalks? What are we doing for disabilities, right? You know, obviously, what are you guys doing for that and for the whole community in general? I had an elderly parent that went blind in his 80s, right? So, how, you know, there is no way he could traverse this living alone. I mean, sorry, I'm digressing. And I want to add on to what Mr. Bill talked about, the property taxes. People are moving out. I don't want to re-highlight, but I think that's important. You know, people aren't choosing this, right? You know, we have, we want to make a new fire department, right? People don't want to pay. These people are moving in, and, you know, the price points. Sorry. So I took this call. So I guess, right. Sorry, everybody, I'm scrambled. Okay, so I guess back to the questions, you know, what kind of accessibility things are going to be done? I'd like to know about the traffic study. No, can you go to the different one, please? Sorry. I should have wrote down what the slide was. It wasn't. Yeah.
For what was it about?
It's the one where you show the crossroad and you show Pyatt going up north-south, and you show English going east-west. So while that's coming up, I'm curious about, the engineer mentioned about the study, right? That was 10 years ago, right? So, you know, what is the expectation of Jennings Park? What kind of traffic are you guys expecting from Jennings Park? I have softball children, and I can tell you that those tournaments are gonna bring in a lot of traffic. And going east and west, if you're coming off of 71, get off 36, 37, you're gonna come down Old State, you're gonna cut through that English road. You're not gonna bypass that. And I've kind of calculated unofficially, it's probably 28 cars per game, per field, right? Because it's no longer a neighborhood park. This is a park where there's going to be tournaments, if my understanding is. And so you're gonna get a lot of volume of that. And that's just for one field with 2 games. With one field, 28 cars. Now, my children always had to be at the field an hour and a half earlier. So, you know, you're gonna have that many more cars. You're gonna have at least, that's based off of 10 to 12 children or adults on a league, on a team. They're gonna have your 2 coaches, and you're gonna have your anywhere from 1 to 3, 4 refs, right? Plus, that's not even talking about if someone wants to go watch little Sally Sue play, a relative or anything, you're gonna have more cars. So how, you know, is there an impact study for Jennings Park that's gonna impact, because that's gonna bring up more than 3,000 cars coming from left to right. I mean, look at Berliner, look at the traffic and how that impacts the whole 71, 270 thing down there. So that's my question for that. The other question, you know, there was a time study that you had from going from, you know, from Bryn Mawr up to Arrowhead, right? The time study. What about the Bryn Mawr through, going to Meadows? We don't have to change it, that's fine. But going to Bryn Mawr, going through the Meadows to get down to Lewis Center. And like somebody else said, Jesse said earlier, everyone's gonna cut through to go down there, especially when that top quadrant is getting done. But I think that's just more of my comments, you know, the housing values, I won't even go on that. But, and lastly, I just want to close with, you know, I've been a proud resident of Bryn Mawr for over 12 years. But I also lived, before I moved here, I lived out west, and I lived in, what did you call it, one of those mega developments. And I lived through this. I know what's coming. I've been there. You know, they make promises, they promise you the world, but what happens is these businesses, when the people don't pay because they don't have the money, who knows what's going to happen with the economy. But anyway, and it was a giant mega thing. I lived in Arizona, right? So master plan community, you know, central, right? So they're all over the place. And when the builders had all of these different builders in this, my big giant neighborhood I was in, the people didn't come. So what happens, right? We don't have the infrastructure for the rest of the people because all of the infrastructure that you guys are expecting is done by the builder. So if the builder decides flops and walks away, we're left with all of this traffic and not consistent infrastructure because it's not going to be completed. So we're not going to have roads because it hasn't been done that. That happened to us. The infrastructure doesn't show. You know, you're left with partials, you know, lots, you know, that are in development, but they're not in development because nobody's there anymore. It's like a ghost town. The businesses come in there, but then the rents go up, and then they can't sustain it, so people leave. It's kind of like they were talking about the factor of the price point for you guys because it's in the Olentangy district. You know, I don't know. I don't know what my point is, but you know, the business, and I think personally, I think that's what happened to this Evans Farms conceptual plan, right? It came up, we had these very, you know, these custom builder homes that you got to pick the lot, you bought your lot and you picked from multiple builders. I remember going to one of the meetings with them. You got to pick the home that you wanted. It was not a tract home, it was not pick the different color or the thing. You got to pick what you want. And we're not there anymore. And to highlight what the current resident from Evans Farm is saying, that, you know, this is the same. They might be different colors. I don't even know if you guys have to do that. But anyway, so I've been to that mega development, and I don't want us to go here. I mean, this is such a, look, Lewis Center is a great place, and, you know, we trust you. We empower you guys. We voted for you guys, right? We live here. These guys don't. At the end of the day, they're going to go home and go wherever, but they don't live here. They don't live and work here. Their kids don't go to school here. And thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other public comments? Okay, we'll go ahead and close off public comment at this time. Go ahead.
Can you grab the microphone?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I did ask to come back and move some exhibits into the record. I do want to summarize our case very briefly. This application gained consistent support from your professional staff in three different occasions. It also gained support from your zoning commission by a 4-to-1 vote. The plan meets the comprehensive plan goals and strategies to support senior and empty nester housing. The last witness referenced a statement in the comprehensive plan about senior communities without multifamily development. I believe that was a reference to very large apartment development situation that occurred in the southern part of the township, not what is a very comparable townhome, very consistent townhome with the same type of residence that Epcon sells to. So I think there's this distinguishing point there. The plan meets the township's test for general welfare because, as opposed to what we heard, we documented tonight how this plan would produce a surplus of revenue for the school district. Again, 17 existing students in 560 existing Epcon homes. That data came from the school district. We called, we got it from them, we didn't make it up. None of those existing communities are age restricted. It's the design, the lifestyle, the type of person that buys an Epcon that makes them seniors and empty nesters, not legal age restrictions. This case also meets the general welfare test because of home values and the supporting data we provided you about median values in the township in general, the values around this site, and then the values that Epcon is producing really everywhere in Central Ohio. This plan would put less pressure on public road maintenance costs with private streets. It would put less pressure on public parks. This site is legally zoned today. It can be developed. It will be developed. This is not a zoning hearing. Epcon's been consistent with our presentations to make the point that we think this plan is better because of the perimeter open space that provides to the neighbors, and we improved that along the way. This plan is better than an alley-loaded plan that, you know, really the only way to do single family along that road, the only way to which is an allowable, would be an allowable density and allowable development with no modifications, would be to have an alley back there. That makes no sense. It made no sense from the beginning. It'd be much better if that area is open space and buffered. With that, Mr. Chairman, we do appreciate the time tonight. We know how long it's been, how late it was. I do want to do two things. First, I want to move Epcon's PowerPoint presentation document into the record as Exhibit A, and also want to move Epcon's market data compilation into the record as Exhibit B, and I'll provide those for you.
Thank you very much. Can I hand these over to legal counsel now? And I believe the board has some additional questions.
Go ahead, Nancy.
So this property is currently zoned single-family, correct? So currently, what could be built here if this zoning application, Robin Dino, was not approved? What could be built without a rezoning hearing?
That would be single-family dwellings, single-family detached dwellings.
Okay, so they could build how many on this site?
There, again, as the applicant has stated, there is no specific density that is mandated for this sub-area in the Evans Farm development text.
So they could build 200 single-family homes?
As long as the lot sizes worked, yes. I haven't run that calculation.
Okay, so are they required to have, what's the open space requirement? Do they have to have open space in this sub-area?
Yes, I believe the Evans Farm requirement is 25%, but let me confirm that.
25%, is it an aggregate or just per sub-area?
They do not have existing sub-areas, so that would be aggregate.
So 25% over the whole 1,200 acre development.
Okay, so in theory, they could build, I mean, I don't know what, they could have no green space here, and they could build hundreds of single-family homes right now without going to zoning. I mean, I would have to sit here and figure out how much acreage, but 63 acres times, you know, I don't know what that density would be, what, 6,400? I mean, it almost looks like they could build 300 single-family homes right now without zoning approval. Okay, so that's the issue that we're dealing with, is this is already zoned single-family. This is not a development that is going from farm residential to single-family. This is already approved. And I'm very sorry that everybody was promised, frankly, incorrect information by the original developer.
Sorry, would you mind coming up to the podium? Wait a minute. State your name and address. Thank you.
I live at 2847 Pebble Drive. Again, 1,200 acres, you already have a density plan. It's already, you have a certain density. What they're doing is moving the density and shifting it to this.
There's no density requirements. It's the number of single-family
No,
homes.
Evans Farm has a density requirement.
What is
The attorney would know. Knows everything else.
I think it's 1,100,
Total number.
it's a total,
Based off of the 1,200 acres.
but it could be anywhere. If he could put 500 single-family here, they could do that right now. Whatever, if you divide the 6,000 square feet or 6,500 per lot, I don't know what that would be. 400 single-family houses, no green space. They do not have to come before this board. It could be another company. They could choose to build single-family houses instead of condos. I don't know. It's not your product. So you could have another developer come
Basically,
in.
you put Rockford Homes, is what you're inferring.
Rockford,
Coming
yeah,
from
I would hate to have
with
Rockford
more
here.
acreage, but that's what.
But they can do that, so Rockford right now could apply, they don't even need to apply, no rezoning, no input from residents. They could come in with a plan that meets the Evans Farm requirements, which again are very laissez-faire, which I did not support just for simply that reason, because I knew it would come to
Still would have to
this.
get approval for the change of the density, or we wouldn't be here today.
No, they would not need to get any approval, no.
As long as over Evans as a whole does not increase
Changes the
the
density,
density
correct.
over the whole development.
But we're here changing the text of the term to change it to
They're not asking you to
condos.
change the density, they're asking you
Yeah,
to.
everything except for those attached homes, which I do have an issue with that we can address. But I would hate to see a lower quality, I'm very disappointed with what Rockford is doing up in Berlin Township. I don't think it's a good product at all. They could come in and they could build, if this property supported the density of the 6,000 square feet per lot, whatever that is divided by 65, they could build hundreds right now with no input from residents. They could come in and do it however they wanted, as long as it meets all the requirements. They could have a road that's directly up, right up against your backyard,
Well,
so
that's what I
directly.
have. And that's exactly what I have, is a road right up my property. And then the comment is,
With no buffer.
No one would want an alley back there. I have 3,000 cars in my backyard.
But there's a
I'm
buffer
asking you
there.
guys
They
to
don't
do the
need.
right thing and
Okay,
say no to
we're
this.
speaking, and
Okay.
public comments closed, so.
Okay, but thank you.
Just
But-
keep it moving.
Yeah, but I just want to point out, they could have a road that goes straight, and that road is out of our control. There's a county requirement.
The county engineer can clarify, the developer put it there, he's approved it. They can put the road wherever they want.
I don't think it could be placed to the north because you guys requested that. Is that correct?
Can they put that road anywhere they want?
Yes, Rob Riley, Chief Deputy Engineer. The road technically could shift to the south. That is accurate.
To the north, you mean?
It could shift to the north or to the south. We have similar types of roads that are closer to abutting property lines.
So why don't we shift it to the north then?
Well, and that's a discussion for Epcon.
Can we shift it to the north?
They sought not to have units against the property line. They sought to have a buffer open space area against the property.
But, I mean, how far to the north could the road go?
Well, remember, the site's also limited by a stream corridor and some natural area that's obvious on the plan to the north. So you can't, if you shove it north, you can only shove it north in a limited basis. You eventually have to put units against the property line. We thought, we lost units against the property line.
Oh, you mean with no road there? Okay. But could you shift it away from the residents? Because they don't want 3,000 cars going past their backyards.
I think what we're asking is, could it curve less to the south, and it would tweak your development?
Our thought process has been that, remember, we have mounds, 4 to 6 feet, and lots of plantings in that space. Our thought process as developer designers is always open space buffering a road is better. And, you know, the value of homes along that road is do people really want homes on that, fronting that road in terms of the value of those homes? We're trying to keep our homes at a high value, you know, these folks are worried about the value of their homes of a road to their north. We would be concerned about homes on that road.
But this can't come off, and the road cannot be to the north of this development, to the very top, the very north of this development. That can't happen?
That's Rob's.
That cannot happen, Trustee Knapp. What we have communicated and discussed with Epcon is that the east point is tied down, so it has to connect at Sun Globe. And for the reasons I already stated,
So it has to, right, it has to connect there because of the
That's a
curve.
fixed point on the east side, there's only so much curvature you could put. and-
Okay, but it could be what you're saying, it has to start there, but it doesn't necessarily have to follow that curve within the property. But it does have to go there, it can't go to on the northern property line in a completely different place, okay. All right, so yeah, back to what I was saying, so right now, someone could come in and a poor quality developer that I've dealt with in other places could come in and build, like I said, hundreds of homes here, no green space, and no one has any control over it, zero. The residents, the trustees, nobody. They would come to the zoning office, get their approval, and they would be done, and they'd start building. Okay, so they're not asking, and there's a couple of things I do have an issue with, some of the divergences. Other than the divergences they're requesting here, Epcon is a very good developer. I've dealt with them since 1998. I will say they are probably one of the better, and I don't like developers. Most of them, honestly, feel are kind of shady, but Epcon has been a person of their word over all these years. When they say there will be so many school children, they're always accurate. I've never seen that diverge. And even though their type of property is not age restricted, it just naturally, truly does attract older people for some reason. And I've walked their properties. It's mostly older people with a couple of children. So I do have to say Epcon does have a very, very good quality product. They're going to be very expensive homes. I would hate to see a tract housing builder come in here and just decimate it with way too many lots, and we would have no control, no mound, no buffer. They could build 1,000 homes on this property if this property could support it, unfortunately. And that's a product of this zoning that was approved that was very wishy-washy with really no standards. And yeah, I'm sorry about that. I did not support that project, and you guys were sold a bill of goods by the original developer. All the meetings they had, it was just, I think it was a facade. So I just wanted to let you know what could be built here. And I do not support the townhouses. Can we take the townhouses out? Because that is a divergence. I don't like the townhouses.
And I agree with that.
Yeah, and I'm a little bit, the duplexes, they're in a different location. They might be okay, but could you?
I don't like duplex either.
Yeah, I'm not a big fan of the duplexes. I don't know what, I wish that road could be built with a less curvature on it and things pushed up a little bit. I don't know if that's possible because of the topography. And it would be nice if you could eliminate the duplexes as well and decrease the density. But whether or not it's legal or not, I think 3,000 cars passing in people's backyards is going to be a lot to swallow. And I think if you could help reduce that, I know you've already worked very hard to install buffers and things, but that would be a possible condition if we were to approve this, from me at least. But I just would hate to see, if not this property will be developed. They have the right to develop it in conformity with the plan and what's been approved. So something will go here. We just need to make sure that it's something that is attractive and will maintain your property values. And if you have walked through like Clear Creek and some of the other developments, they're beautiful. And the people that live there are very high quality people who are great neighbors. I've walked the communities myself. I don't think I'll ever be able to afford to live there. They're way too expensive for me, but they are very nice communities. So I feel like if we have to pick one thing over the other, I'd rather see this than something else because this is a popular area, popular property.
Yep, so I have a couple more comments. So I live, like I said, off of Walker Road Boulevard, and my subdivision basically surrounds a condo community. So I reached out to a friend whose home backs up to the condo community saying, is it a concern? And obviously the English Drive 35.
The one
around Walker Wood Park.
Oh, yeah. Okay.
The 35 mile an hour road is not comparable. However, like I said, I live on Walker Wood, which feels like a 35 mile an hour road. She did not have a concern with the neighbors and property values, and those condos are worth $250, $260, so this is...
Maybe $350 now.
Maybe,
They've gone up.
So, yeah, I just reiterate what Epcon was saying, I don't think this is going to be a negative impact as far as the condos go on the existing neighbors. I agree with what Trustee Knapp said. Epcon product is lovely. The people are, you know, members of our community, and the homes are good, and all that kind of stuff. So that's all good. I do have a couple just things to note. So Evans Code, like Robin said at the very beginning, started in 2015-ish and was updated a number of times. After COVID 2021, sometime around there, I think my understanding is they just kind of a complete overhaul of the code just to make it a little bit more developer friendly, because there was an economic concern at that time that the community would not be successful. So Orange Township staff and team and the trustees at that time worked with Evans and made it so it was a little bit more developer friendly, a little bit more flexible for the developers, so that this community would succeed. Because I think if this community does not succeed, it would, you know, reflect pretty negatively on our township, and we don't want that.
And none of us were trustees when that occurred. I was on a 2-year break.
So I guess what I'm saying is the rules were loosened. I don't want to loosen them anymore, specifically in regards to the townhomes, right? And if signage is a thing and we say you can't have flag signs, and you went from 6 and now you're asking for 4, let's just not have flag signs, right? Like, it's been loosened, it's pretty flexible right now, so let's keep it as close to that flexibility. Do I have a concern of the fact that the driveways go to the sidewalk from the front door goes to the driveway versus to the main sidewalk? No, that's fine. That's no problem. But that was in your list of divergences. But it is really those 7 quadplexes and the 1 duplex. Take those chunks of land, turn those into single family. Now, obviously, you're not gonna get 30 single family homes in those 8 spaces. So it'll be more than 129, but that's kind of what I'm asking. Couple other things. There's the construction trailer slash sales trailer location. Obviously, it looks lovely, but it does back up to the Bryn Mawr residence. Can we find another spot for that? And yes, it may have to move from in phase 1, could you place it in phase 3 so that some of our neighbors here don't have a trailer in their backyard? Just things to think about.
Where does it have to be located? Could it be?
It's on the south side of English, if I'm remembering the application correctly. So that's just like, let's not do that. Also, as far as the elevation, so Evans as a whole is a front porch community. There are a number of the elevation, obviously the townhomes are all garage focused, so like I said, I'd like to scrap those. The Torino and Verona elevations, when I looked at the house plan of all your different elevations, those ones seemed to me where the garage was farther out than, say, the front porch and the house.
No, so the Torino is a yes. The garage does
Extend a little bit, yeah.
That's why the town architect
Said no along those platted lots. Right.
Only on the interior lots. Okay.
Right.
And there's one other floor plan called the promenade with one elevation, which is, it's a ranch.
Elevation A, yeah, I saw that.
Same thing. So
Yeah.
the Verona, the front facade is in front of the garage. So there's only 2 plans that are restricted.
Okay,
And then it's-
but I would like to restrict those 2 that the town architect didn't want on the outside facing lots. I would like to scrap those from the choices.
I just be careful about township authority to regulate architecture is limited. And so we are dealing with an approved zoning text.
But the approved zoning text says the garages are gonna be in the back.
No.
No.
Front-loaded garages are permitted in Evans Farm.
And are they, Zenius, are they permitted to stick out farther than the front of the house?
No, the only variant that we have is on those 1 plan in the second elevation, that is taken past the,
And the benefit of the Torino where the garage sits a little bit further out than the allowed is because it's a front porch that is added. So the remedy to how you make that Torino comply with the ordinance is to enlarge the bedroom on the inside of that, to bring that wall out and instead of having an 8-foot front porch, where that's why people love that unit, to have rocking chairs on, it's the rocking chair front porch. That's the rationale, because when you look at the roof line actually is consistent with Evans Farms regulations where, the main roof doesn't sit back off the garage much. It's underneath because the front wall is back to give that 8-foot wide depth, 8-foot depth on the front porch. That's what creates the need for the modification request that we did.
And that is the largest front porch
Right.
on all of our.
I know, it is a nice front porch.
Which is odd because
I know, that's-
Evans
yeah.
Farm is all about the.
Talk
porch.
to me about the Verona elevation, because that's like a side entrance.
Yeah,
That didn't feel
ele-
like it had a front porch. And again,
It does have a porch there, and it has a front door to the side. I'd be willing to, make it, I can adjust that to have the door facing the street, but I don't think that changes the look or the appearance. And again, it takes away from the front porch, which we're trying to.
right, I drove around the development that's over by Aldi the other day. Thank you. And that one was all very front porch focused.
They're the same homes.
Same homes.
Okay, they are. Because I liked that.
And those
I
Torino
want
Verona
to,
were probably
I
scattered
want
throughout
to,
there.
I want to look at the house and see a porch and not a garage.
Right,
Same homes.
same. Yep.
Our smaller lots in Evans Farm, we were not or a garage on the front. It had to be off an alleyway. So, I don't know, Zenius, you know our house, so you should be able to say that you can't have a 45-foot lot that's garage in the front.
You have additional questions?
Yeah, those were my comments.
We had some questions that were asked by neighbors. I'm gonna make sure we touch on those as well. I think two would probably be better addressed to Rob, and then the other two to the developer. I'm not sure who might best answer this question, but with respect to Rock Road, as it would connect into the Bryn Mawr neighborhood, would there be easements allowed for some type of neighborhood signage? Is there currently contemplated some kind of neighborhood signage? Whatever
You
that.
can use that microphone right there, Ruth.
I'm not sure I can answer that sitting here. I'd have to look at the subdivision plat. I think the question you may want to ask is whether the applicant would be willing to provide an easement on their side of the property line for
Yeah.
that entry feature.
For a sign, yeah. Would the applicant be willing to do that? Is there space to do that? You wouldn't build the sign, but you could give an easement.
Talk about maintenance over
Yeah,
time.
who's gonna maintain it?
I mean, if it's gonna be on their property, it raises we have to.
Would their HOA be permitted to put an
We have to
entrance?
look at their zoning, it's.
Yeah, I'd actually ask the HOA if they really would like a sign there. To me, most people, don't care to have that many signage, but, we could make that, we can consider that. I mean, but again, it's illegal, and who's gonna maintain it over time?
It's
And
what,
does
sorry?
the HOA want to take on that maintenance?
Well, they don't necessarily have to do it, but if they wanted, I mean, they're expensive too.
It would be something that their HOA would have to put in and would have to maintain, in my mind. That would have to be, in my mind, it would be the Bryn Mawr HOA if you wanted to add a Bryn Mawr sign. That would be,
Yeah, but you don't, it's not
yeah,
necessary.
but it's not you don't have to, yeah.
This is probably another question for the developer. There was some discussion about what would the phasing look like west of this current development. And I know that's a little bit farther afield, but do we have any estimates as to when that next phase might be built? What that would potentially look like, things of that nature?
Can you pass the mic down to Zenius, please?
So as you guys may know, we just delivered the 97 lots, the next phase. And as sanitary line has it, we're headed west before you can head east. The next phase is the oval, which is our attached product. And then, so we're probably 2 phases away. And I speak in phases, not in time frame, because the market kind of dictates when you can pull a phase. If I had to guess, and it's just a pure guess, 18 to 24 months to go in for permits and then construction from there, market dependent. It all has to do with the absorption and, the crystal ball.
And do we know what the timing is on like phase 1 versus 2 versus 3 of this Epcon community?
We'd look to start development, should we be approved in, end of 25, beginning of 26, start closing homes, mid 26 at a pace, hopefully, 40 to 50 a year. So we'll be out of, phase 1 in 18 months, and then phase two, roll right into phase two, depending on market conditions, obviously. So, you know, Rock Drive would be most likely phase three, 20, 28, 20, yeah.
Okay.
20, yeah. Right.
So that may coincide with the chunk to the west?
We would love to catch up with that. I think there's some synergies that takes care of a lot of these stop and go and trying to reroute things, but again, I want to be responsible for myself.
And then this might be two questions for Rob. I think a resident had a question about being able to turn left out of Bryn Mawr. What would that look like with the proposed changes to the traffic patterns on Old State? And then also, what is currently contemplated for the crossability of English?
Sure, it's a great question. As I think I mentioned in my presentation, turning left from either Prairie Drive or Bryn Mawr Drive is a real concern for us.
It is for us too.
And not surprised to hear that. So I think the way we're looking at this, frankly, is that ability for Bryn Mawr residents to get to English Drive via Rock Drive is a good thing for the safety getting out of Bryn Mawr. Will there be folks in Meadows at Lewis Center that cut through? Entirely possible, but generally speaking, travel time is a deciding factor. Is it faster for someone to cut through, so to speak, Bryn Mawr to get to Old State, or just simply turn left out onto Lewis Center and then go to Old State that way? So I think we would recognize there's a possibility of some of that happening, but from where we're sitting, that connection for Bryn Mawr to English Drive, in our opinion as the engineer, that's a very real, very beneficial thing.
And then crossability of English?
Yeah, so crosswalks at English Drive would have to be ADA compliant. There would be curb ramps. We could look at higher intensity crosswalk protection. That could be in the form of the flashing push button lights. That's generally something we'd look at on down the road because you have to maintain them in the interim. But those are things that are very frequently added in situations where there's a lot of traffic. You've got a situation right out here in front of the Township Hall where there's push button activated high intensity lights. So.
And is that something the township would be responsible for and maintaining, or would that be something that Evans Farm would be responsible for?
I think that's a discussion between you and Evans Farm. We can certainly try to facilitate that, but there's a possibility that could involve the community authority, that could involve both the developer and the community authority.
Do you want to open it back up for additional questions?
Let's keep our comments to like 3 minutes. Just restate your, yeah.
So,
Can you restate your name for the record, Madam?
Lisa Ledke, 2945 Pebble Drive. So my property directly is connected to this proposal, right? So as my neighbors have stated too, we have a tree line right now that is behind our property into the current Evans farmland. So half of that tree line, there's a line in between it, that's my property and Evans' property. So I kind of want an assurance that, you know, my tree line is gonna stay. I don't want my trees touched, those are my property. Yes, there are some trees that are over the line on their property, but those tree lines need to stay, because that is my property, and I have the right to those trees, right?
You have the right to the trees on your
Yes.
property, yes. And I do think there was a clouded note on the thing that the existing tree line would stay, right? The additional,
We made the change to our plan to ensure to the greatest possibility that those trees would remain by shifting the pond, adding more space between the pond and the trees to add more trees for buffering.
so even if you put the mound in, it won't impact the existing trees? Okay. Okay.
Where's that, that's
So the
at
trees should
the,
stay,
to be
yeah.
staying where they are.
that, where's your part, is it down here?
Yep, I'm like right here.
Okay,
210 feet from
okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
So those trees are being preserved, is that right? Okay.
Right, with this plan, right,
You might
that's
turn
true.
the microphone around.
So-
The ones on your
Oh,
property,
yeah,
yes.
they won't touch your
Yep.
trees, yeah.
Yep, they can't touch the ones on your property, that's true.
Could you turn the microphone around, please? Yeah, thank you.
Sorry about that.
Trustee
problem.
Din, 5304 Meadowbend Drive. Follow-up for that. You're saying that they're not going to cut through Rock to Meadowbend to get out to Lewis Center, but that's exactly what's happening right now on Glen Oak? That people go from Old State, they cut through Glen Oak to get to Orange, they don't have to sit at that light. So I don't feel like that's an accurate statement that you're making.
Okay.
Second of all, since Epcon is its own community and there's no continuity between the two of us then, is there a way to keep Rock closed? And also about the road curving north, since it's already been stated that they could have done it that way and they could do it that way in their plan.
Does the board have any additional discussion?
Just to clarify that, in theory, they could build maybe over 400 single-family homes on this property without zoning and without any approval from anyone. So, I mean, it could be 500 minus like roads and some other things, but they could densely pack this with zero approval from the zoning board or from the trustees or input, so unfortunately. That's why most neighborhoods, we have them laid out with open space and everything is set up exactly how it's going to be, and unfortunately, it wasn't done here. Yeah, I would like, the townhomes, I would like to see, so there's a divergence for the attached units. That is one thing that we can possibly have control over, because it is a divergence. I would like to see the townhomes removed and also the duplexes, and maybe the duplexes converted into,
Single family?
yeah, the single-family style homes. And I would love to see the curve in that road changed, if possible, to be just a little bit farther away from the neighbors.
Mr. Chairman, we don't have before you a single-family only plan. So, how we would get there, we would like a couple minutes, if we could, to have a recess and talk about that.
And we're open
Oh,
to
yeah, that's
tabling
fine.
and you guys going and having some time and meeting again.
Well, we'd like to at least talk
Oh, yeah, we can take
Amongst
a
yourselves, yeah,
recess.
that's great, yeah.
Then you would take how long do you need?
5 minutes.
5 minutes, okay, is that fine?
All right, 5-minute recess. Thank you.
Even if they're nice, even if they're $500,000, I feel like.
Hey, Lisa, for $500,000.
We're ready to
Okay, good.
resume. Thank you. You ready with all the magic buttons?
Yes.
Or do they?
We're going to come back from our recess, everyone. Let me know when
Yeah, we're on.
we're on. Okay. So I believe there was some board discussion about some changes that they'd like to see from the applicant. I think the applicant has had some time to discuss.
Mr. Chairman, because we don't have a single-family only plan that, doesn't include townhomes and duplexes, we would like to continue the hearing to a date certain, and we'll put a plan like that together, take a look at it in advance of the meeting, and as Michelle directs, turn that in advance of the meeting. We would be able to come back and have the hearing, if the trustees can do so, March 5th or March 6th would be the dates that would, a timeline that we would request. And we would try to, again, turn the plan in about a week ahead, per Michelle.
So March 6th here is the Source Point is hosting a caregivers crash course. So that,
We have our, sorry, go ahead.
so that date wouldn't work.
I can't do the
for here.
5th, but I could do the 6th. Wait, what is it?
It's
Source
Source
Point's
Point's
hosting
hosting a
an event,
caregivers
yeah.
crash course at 6 p.m. that day. What do we have on the 5th?
I
Our
can't.
We have a
trustee
trustee
Just a
meeting.
at
I
3.
can't do the 5th.
Oh.
What about the
What about
week
the next
after
week?
that? Or what about the Thursday after that? Or when is, hold on a sec. Oh, that's a DCTA meeting. Hold on a minute.
The 13th?
I can't do the 13th. I'm skipping I'm on the DD board as
What
well.
about the 4th? What about Tuesday, the 4th?
I could do that.
Or Tuesday, the 18th?
I could do that.
The 4th or 18th?
4th or the 8th?
If that works for Mike.
How does it work with it?
The 4th would work for us.
The 18th, I think. Yeah, not the 8th.
The 4th would work. Robin, does that work with our zoning meetings and all that?
Wait, the
Julie?
4th?
March 4th?
Yeah. Tuesday, March 4th, yeah. At
Yes, thank you.
5 o'clock.
Yes.
Yeah, if you can straighten out that Willow Road and take the townhouses and duplexes out, I think you're more likely to see a positive response.
We're gonna examine what we can do.
So is
Did
there,
you say 5 o'clock, Adam?
Yeah.
Snap, okay.
is there a motion that the board member would like to make?
I make a motion to table this hearing.
Does it continue?
Oh, continue, thank you. To continue this hearing to Tuesday, March 4th at 5 p.m. here at Township Hall.
Second?
Oh, sorry. Trustee Ringgold,
Yes.
trustee Faust,
Yes.
and trustee Knapp.
Yes.
All right, this hearing has been continued to March 4th at 5 p.m. There will be additional public notice about that hearing.
There won't be.
No.
No.
My apologies.
So there won't be any public notice, but will we post the materials on the website or?
On social media.
And we
as
can
well.
send a reminder to the residents that attended today and previous meetings to
Okay.
the
And
information.
so you all will know,
Not a
okay. Thank
published
you.
notice.
Yes.
We won't change it, yeah. Well, thanks to everybody for coming.
Thank you for coming.